Hey now, happy Monday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. What a time to be alive. We are so happy to be back here and be hanging out with you today. We've got a full 4-hour show for you coming up from Prairie Band Sportsbook. We will be here throughout the show today. We've got plenty of stuff to give away. You can see us on YouTube right now. In fact, we're streaming the show live. We've got Prairie Band Sportsbook hats that we are giving away throughout the show today. We've got Prairie Band Sportsbook koozies we're giving away throughout the day today. They've got the Putt Your Way promotion going on right now at Prairie Band Sportsbook. And as we were telling you about all last week, if you come up here during the show today, all you have to do is give us a name and an email address. You will be entered to win a pair of tickets to Royals versus A's coming up on Friday. 2 seats, Royals dugout side of the ballpark. And it'll be ALCS 2014 Championship Honors Day, T-shirt giveaway, Kelvin Herrera bobblehead giveaway day, all of that coming up on Friday. So all you have to do, come up, see us here at Prairie Band Sportsbook, tell us that you want to be entered to win, and you will be entered, and we'll have a chance to win those tickets. We've got a jam-packed show coming up for you guys today. Plenty of Royals to get to here in the opening hour of the show. Awesome weekend for Kansas City out in Anaheim. Took 3 out of 4. Seth Lugo, have we been talking about the wrong Royals starting pitcher to possibly win the Cy Young Award this year? We are going to get to that on a serious note coming up here in just a few moments. Our favorite moments from the first quarter of the Royals season, plus how are expectations changing for the Royals now that the year has started? We're a quarter of the way in. How different are they? How different should they be? We will get to all of that coming up here over the course of the show today. Plenty of Chiefs notes to get to. We do know who the Chiefs will be playing opening night of the NFL season this year. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Is that the right call? Where will some of the other headlining games for the Chiefs fall on the schedule when it is released on Wednesday? We will get to that later on in the show as well. Matt Verderame is going to join us in the 3 o'clock hour for our weekly chat on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. We've got What Is Wrong With You, some college basketball notes to get to, 580 Sports Talk headlines, all that and much more coming up today here on 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show. You can join us on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And, of course, you can find us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of our YouTube channel. You can also find the video stream on our Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, at 580WIBWA.com, as well as on the WIBW News Facebook page as well. Good to be back up here at Prairie Band.
It is. It's always nice. Such great hospitality here, and it's just great to be hanging out and watching 10 different televisions within my line of sight, and excited to be back at it on a Monday doing the show out here at Prairie Band. Looking forward to having some of you come out and get yourself registered to win those Royals tickets, and get
yourself a hat.
Get yourself a lid. And
I think I'm going to throw one on here in just a second.
And also, maybe get some action down on ongoing NBA NHL playoffs. They've got futures odds on who's going to win the Super Bowl. They have lots of day-of-game odds. You can bet on the Royals to win tonight against the Seattle Mariners. Lots of fun things you can do up here at the Prairie Band Sportsbook. So look forward to seeing you here over the next 4 hours.
Dan was, right before we were going on air, fully preparing his retirement plan and putting together a couple of futures on the Avs and the Nugs over the next couple of weeks.
Parlays. That's where the future is. And by future, I mean my secure financial future. Just need one.
So speaking of just needing one, your Colorado Rockies, 750-1 to win the World Series. How many units can we expect on that future in particular?
Got to put a band on that at least. I mean, come on. They swept the Rangers. They swept the defending champs. You know what that means? We got the belt now.
If you're not the favorites after that.
You want to be the man, you got to beat the man, right?
So we will be here at Prairie Band throughout the day today. Come up and see us again. You can enter your name for a chance to win tickets to Royals versus A's coming up on Friday, along with all the other awesome promotions they've got going on here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. It was a great weekend for the Kansas City Royals to take 3 out of 4 from the Angels. We've got to start with Seth Lugo, don't we? Because we've talked about how, the numbers are good. He's been phenomenal so far. Maybe there are some peripherals that make you think, okay, he's probably pitching a little bit better than what you would expect, and this will level out over time. And then he went out and had one of the best starts of his entire career. 8 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 run, struck out a career high 12. And look, can you say it's the Angels are not very good, they're missing Mike Trout? Yeah, of course you can. But that's like saying, oh, well, that no-hitter didn't count because it happened against the 2012 Rays. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, if you're dominating like that, it doesn't matter who your opponent is. You praise a performance like that. Seth Lugo has been awesome this year, way better than I thought he would be. And will that 166 ERA probably come back to a more expected level at some point? Sure. But right now, he is the best pitcher this Royal staff has. Not the highest ceiling. Obviously, that's still Cole Reagans, even though he had a tough outing on Saturday. But Lugo right now has been one of the best starting pitchers in the American League.
And he has the third lowest ERA in the whole entire major leagues.
That's crazy.
He's been really good. And it's one of those where the stats say he was dominant. Then you watch the performance he had, and the thing that really stands out is that curveball. I mean, you talk about, this has always been Lugo's calling card, is his curveball, because he spins the baseball better than all but a handful of guys in the league. And where you really see the benefit of that is with the curveball. And yesterday, I think he had some of his highest spin rates of the season on the curve. And that led to some really bad looking swings and misses by some of the Angels hitters. So that was outstanding stuff that Lugo had. That wasn't just he's throwing up slop and this lousy big league lineup is just swinging through it because they're not any good. No, Seth Lugo's stuff was outstanding. That curveball was lethal. And to go 112 pitches and not really look like he was slowing down, it almost looked like he was getting stronger as the game went on. They left him in there in the 8th, and he buzzed through the lineup in the 8th inning. That was extremely impressive all the way around. And we had talked early in the season about the strikeouts. They were really uncommonly low for Lugo early on this season, but he has certainly recovered in that capacity. He's up to a much more respectable for the season 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, where his career mark is right around 9 per 9, right around a strikeout per inning. His last 4 starts, going back to that 8 innings of shutout, or 7 innings of shutout ball he threw against the Tigers on that Friday afternoon, 28 2/3 innings, 34 strikeouts. He has been getting better as he has gone along, and he has been sort of the linchpin for this Royals rotation. Any good team has to have a guy who's the stopper, who you feel like, okay, it's his bump day, we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what happened the day before. It doesn't matter if we're coming off a series loss. It doesn't matter if we've lost 4 straight games. Seth Lugo's on the mound today, we're going to win. That's the kind of confidence that these Royals are playing with behind him, both defensively and at the plate. And the result is, a pitcher who's been one of the very best in the American League through the first month and a half.
And it's nice to have that, too, especially following up an off day from Reagans. And, I've seen a little response online that, are we sure that this is the guy that everyone's been hyping up? Is this the guy that we were promised? Let's not forget, Cole Reagans has not even pitched in 50 games in his career. He has not even been in Kansas City for a full year at this point. Like, there is still going to be some development, I think, in his game. The ceiling for Cole Reagans is still higher than anybody else. And did it suck on Saturday? Yeah, and he said as much. Like, look, I missed my spots. I thought I had good stuff. I didn't. I was fighting it. Whatever, that happens sometimes. But to be able to have a Seth Lugo who you can depend on and say, even if it's not going to be this good all the time, to know it is pretty much always going to be good enough to have a chance to win or to outright win, that's pretty impressive. And really all weekend, I thought, we talked about this plenty on Friday after the opener, on Thursday night, starting pitching this series was kind of a microcosm of how good it has been throughout the season so far, because you got a really good bounce back outing from Michael Wacha. Marsh didn't go very far in his return, but you don't generally expect more than 5+ innings out of Alec Marsh as your 5th starter. He was good in 5 1/3
or a guy coming
on Friday.
Back from injury.
Right, exactly. You wouldn't expect 8 innings out of him his first game back. Then to get Lugo yesterday, that's just been what this rotation has been. That is why, if we're talking about changing expectations for this team, that group in particular is the reason why we have raised the ceiling for those expectations.
I want to go back to your point about Reagans. If you look at the fielding independent numbers for the 5 starters in the Royals rotation, it's still Reagans who has the best fielding independent number, and not by a little bit either.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is he is the best on staff at making guys miss, at striking guys out. He's still striking out 10.5 per 9, and he's the best at limiting home runs. And if you do those things over time, you are going to be successful. The walks ticked up a little bit, like you said. He wasn't sharp, and you could kind of tell right away on Saturday that he wasn't real sharp. He gave up that home run to Adele. Something's not working with the slider and the cutter right now for him. Those are two pitches that were real weapons for him last season and have not been this year. We've talked about pitch run values. He had an extremely valuable slider last year when he came over from Texas. His slider was worth 7 runs. It's been worth -7 runs so far this season.
Yeah.
So something's up with the slider and the cutter. I don't know if they're looking a little too much alike, if there's not separation on the plane or on the break, and I haven't dug in on that enough to know if it's one or the other. But right now, that's the pitch, especially to right-handers, that he's getting beat on most often. That was the pitch that he got beat on. He threw one to Adele that didn't get far enough inside, Joe Adele, who hit that 3-run home run that really kicked off all the problems. And then I understand that he settled in after the 3rd inning, really, and he was pretty tough, 4th, 5th, 6th inning. He should not have started the 7th inning of that baseball game, and he kind of got hung out to dry a little bit. I thought Matt Quatrero leaned on him a little bit too much, and then Nick Anderson didn't do him any favors, blew up his ERA a little bit by allowing those inherited runners to come in and score. So I understand if there's some disappointment in Reagans' outing on Saturday. I think that's fair, but I think bigger picture, the things that Reagans is doing are still going to lend himself to being successful, being that top-end guy a lot more often than not. It's just a small tweak that he might have to make right now with his cutter and his slider, in particular to right-handed batters, because that cutter is the pitch he really likes to bury in on righties so they're not comfortable. Well, you don't get it all the way in, they're going to get off a comfortable swing like Adele did on Saturday. So I am not concerned about Reagans over the long haul. The strikeout numbers are still there. The command is still fine. He is largely keeping the ball in the ballpark. That was only the third home run he'd given up in 49 innings this year. That is outstanding. The Royals as a staff lead the American League in fewest home runs given up. If you keep it in the ballpark and you make guys strike out, you will set yourself up to be really effective over the long haul. And that's what's really important is you kind of get settled in now a quarter of the way into the year for what you expect to be a competitive season.
I think this is one of the things that becomes difficult for, if you're not if you don't love following the analytical movement in baseball, is understanding that like some things are less controllable than others, and that even if the final result is not great, some of those controllable things have been. And what I mean by that, Cole Reagans last year made 12 total starts and pitched in 29 games for the Rangers and Royals. This year, he has appeared in 9 games total, just 9 games total. He already has more than half as many wins above replacement, according to Fangraphs, as he had last year. Like the things that you can control, he's done a really good job on. The batting average on balls in play against him. So that's balls that are not strikeouts, not walks, not hit for home runs. Slightly elevated above what you would expect. 333 average on those so far. That average is right around 300. So a little bit above average there. That indicates at least a slight amount of an unlucky stretch to this season so far for Cole Reagans. He's going to be fine. I mean, the stuff is good. We have seen what great Cole Reagans can look like. I think he can be even better than that. So I'm really not concerned about what that's going to look like going forward. I did want to get to a couple of other guys who had big weekends, though. We were clamoring for Dairon Blanco on Friday. He got to start 2 more games this weekend. Didn't do much on Friday. Had another pair of hits yesterday, though. Give this guy some run. Let's see a little bit more of him.
Yeah, I'm all for it, especially against left-handed pitching with MJ Melendez struggling. I'm not in favor of necessarily benching Melendez fully, but it's not like Velasquez or Renfroe have really seized that opportunity. So let's see what Dairon Blanco's got. And I do think when I think back, what game was it where there was a play in center field? I think it was in this series. I'm trying to remember what night it was. There was a play in center field that I think Isbell makes that Blanco doesn't. It was a game Isbell started and Blanco came in and was in center field. and a play that I think Isbell makes that Blanco doesn't at the wall. So, like, there is a defensive deficiency there. He's not a great defender. He can outrun some mistakes, but he's not a great defender. That being said, the bat, I mean, has played well over the weekend, and you're going to need some offense. You need some production from the bottom half of this Royals order, and you're not getting it from the guys who are playing every day. So why not try somebody who might hit his way into the lineup and force the issue?
No, he did have a couple of hits yesterday.
He did. Him and Hunter Renfroe were both really good yesterday. 4 for 7 with Renfroe having that 2-run single in the inning where they got all their runs.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good swing of the bat for him, and he hit both balls hard yesterday for hits. So hopefully that's the start of something, and those guys can start to come around a little bit. Again, that was with a platoon advantage against the left-hander Tyler Anderson, but they do. They need more from the corner outfielders, and they need more from the bottom of that order. MJ Melendez had a good game in this series too, so you just hope those guys can bounce back, because I think that their talent level is higher than the numbers right now show. All of those guys.
And that same, on the other side of that coin, couple of guys who you would expect to be better than they played this weekend had really ugly weekends. Like Bobby Wood Jr. went 2 for 17 this weekend, which, I mean, it happens sometimes, but you still scored a bunch. You still won 3 out of 4 games. You'll take that. Cole Reagans was not good on Saturday. You still take 3 out of 4 despite him throwing up a clunker in that game, because you can rely on these other guys. When is the last time the Royals had this many guys you could genuinely rely on? 2015?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Maybe 16?
That whole keep the line moving philosophy that was such a big part of the championship season in 2015. Kind of what this lineup feels like they do best is when they start a rally, they cash it in. They keep innings going. They're able to not just get one run with a threat, but put up a crooked number, as they call it, like they did yesterday in that 4-run third inning, and then that ended up being decisive. So they have been very opportunistic and very good at stringing at-bats together, having good innings as a team. I don't know that is necessarily a skill, but it's one that like a repeatable skill, but it is a skill that this team has displayed today.
Anything else really stand out from the weekend?
I think it's good to see not your starter, like your stars, not always having great games, but your team continuing to win.
Yeah, the role guys stepping up.
The guys that we've talked about on the show for the last 2 weeks that have struggled help in a good way and don't hurt your team like they had for the last couple of weeks specifically. And maybe that's a sign for things to come. Obviously, you need more plate appearances to go their way. I'm talking about Hunter Renfroe specifically. Maybe his I think it's a 155 average goes up to 189 by the end of May. I mean, at this point, it's hard to do a lot to a batting average unless you hadn't played that much.
And the thing is, too, like you can live with one guy or even 2 who are not providing you a whole lot in your lineup. You just need to avoid it being 4 or 5 guys. That's where you run into more issues. And if you're getting a little bit more from MJ, or you're playing Blanco a little bit more often, and he is starting to produce for you offensively, if you get Renfroe or Velasquez to pick up and do something on the days when Fermin plays along with Salvi, if he's able to give you a little bit more offensively, then you're starting to feel a whole lot better about where this offense is right now. So that's where this Royals team stands. We'll talk a little bit more about expectations later on in the show, but I don't know, man. This was a great weekend series. I also love West Coast baseball because, especially now that they've moved up the start times ever so slightly, I mean, it's the perfect evening programming.
And you're the only game on.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So if you get a little bit more attention, a little bit more eyes on you from the baseball public when you're the only game going late on a Thursday night, late on a Friday, late on a Saturday.
And especially cool on Thursday when it was a national game, too.
Yeah, and not just a national game, but one where the Royals kind of dominated from start to finish. Got the really good start from Waka, scored the 10 runs. It was a pretty good showcase weekend all around, I thought, for the Royals. And now winning this series, it's hard to go win a 4-game series on the road, right? You generally hope that you can go about 500 on the road over the course of a season, 500-ish. That's 2-2 in a 4-game series. But winning this series now puts you in a spot where even if you lose the series to Seattle, that's still a winning road trip. You come back with winning road trips. You go 4-3. They win the series. They go 5-2 on this road trip. That is massive. Anytime you can come off a multi-city road trip with a winning record, that helps you so much in the standings. And this was a take care of business series. I know there's been a lot of talk, when we've talked about how the Royals have played this year, a lot of people will be quick to point out, yeah, but they had the 7 games early against the White Sox, and they're terrible. And they swept the Astros, but the Astros look like they might really stink this year. So, and then this series against the Angels, yeah, but it's the Angels. That's not a good team. Trout's out. Yes, precisely. That's the point. You're supposed to take care of business against bad teams. That's what the good teams do, is they don't play with their food. They go take 3 out of 4 against a reeling Angels team on the road. You don't show mercy. You don't let a struggling team get back on track. You keep a struggling team struggling. That's the mark of a good team.
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of evidence out there that the best teams and the teams most likely to continue having success are the ones that blow out bad opponents and to be able to win in dominant fashion in those kinds of games. Royals this year, do you know what the road record is overall? 19 road games.
I think they're right around 9-10 or 10-9.
10-9.
Yeah.
10-9 so far. If you're going to win 52.6% of your games on the road all season, you're a playoff team.
Yeah. Unless you're a total mess at home, and the Royals have been the opposite of that.
No, 65% of their games at home they've won so far, 15-8 there.
I think too, it's big that we talk that they're able to win these games now, and heck, they have, I think, like the 5th most wins in the MLB right now at 25. There's going to be points where it's not going to be good. There's going to be weeks where they win or they lose more than they win.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can put yourself into a position,
stack the wins now
like they are now, it's going to help them later. And we keep talking about this. We talked about this in April. Now we're in May. If you can keep stacking and stacking and stacking, you have a legit chance to do something not a lot of people thought was going to happen this year, and is make the playoffs.
We've got more Royals baseball we will get to coming up on the other side of this break and throughout the show. We'd love your thoughts on the Royals weekend as well, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line 785-272-9429 or on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel as well. We've got more Royals baseball coming up right on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk.
What are we in? Program 1 or 2 that we got to get out of?
Yes. On, just getting started on this Monday afternoon, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Just head up 75 Highway from the capital city. Get off on 150th Road. You cannot miss it. We are in the Sportsbook live here all day long. So come hang out with us here. We've got all sorts of giveaways. We've got Sportsbook hats. We've got koozies. We also have a chance for you to enter to win a pair of tickets to Royals versus A's on Friday, lower level dugout side seats. So you can come and have a fun day at the K. And all you have to do to enter is come and see us here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. Spencer was just, if you were watching the YouTube, holding up the giveaways we've got today. These are nice hats. Got the flex fit here.
Yeah.
Got the slight curve in the bill.
No expense spared on the lids.
On the promo items.
Very nice. Come out and get one. Come out and see us.
We did have a question from Vance on YouTube earlier, was asking what was over my my right shoulder. Currently, the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championships are in action.
Yeah.
I believe it's Team Switzerland and the Czech Republic, Czechia, I believe it is now.
Yes, that is correct.
That is the official name now. No expense spared here. Whatever you want to watch. We've got some old school Chiefs Steelers playoff football that's on screen.
Yeah, the 93 wild card game, Chiefs Steelers at Arrowhead. I believe this is a Chiefs win in overtime.
We have Patriot League tournament baseball.
Yeah, you were not alive for this.
What year did you say this was? 91?
93.
93.
So you were not alive for this.
I was also not alive for the 93 postseason.
I was 6 years old, and I remember watching Joe Montana play.
Yeah, I mean, I know what happens. I know how this season ends for the Kansas City Chiefs.
My grandmother, not a big sports fan. My mom's mom, God rest her soul, not a great sports fan. Loved Joe Montana.
Really
loved Joe Montana. Joe Cool, loved him.
Joe Montana was, but he did. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Like guys who just have that coolness to them.
Yeah,
Burrow's got it. I kind of think Stroud has it. Stroud sort of has an effortlessness about him that kind of has that cool factor. Montana's always going to be the gold standard of that, though.
Yeah, like the standard is like how many guys can you imagine walking into a huddle before a championship winning drive and saying, "Oh, hey, look, there's John Candy." Isn't that John Candy? That's wild. Anyway, let's go 95 yards and step on the Bengals' throats and win the Super Bowl.
The stories about him calling his wife from the field, some of my all-time favorites, where he found out that the phones to the press box, they could call out. He just call his wife from the sideline. It's like, Joe, what are you doing? Aren't you playing? Yeah, just thought I'd say hi. Love that from him.
See you at home for dinner later.
Yeah, right. We will get to our updated Royals expectations. We're now more than a quarter of the way through the Royals season, 25.9%, in fact, of the way through the Royals season. I think if you compared that to an NFL season, we'd be something like halftime of week 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not even halftime of the week 5 game. So we'll get to some updated expectations for this team coming up here in just a little bit. But so far, with a team that is 25-17, has blown even the most optimistic expectations out of the water to this point. Do you have a favorite moment so far from the start of this Royals season? Something that just stands out as like, wow, this felt different, or this was just especially fun?
I'll give you two. The first was last Friday, Salvador Perez's home run against the Rangers. That was a moment at Kauffman Stadium where Kauffman felt alive again. Kauffman felt like it had energy and verve, and that people in that ballpark were more than ready and more than happy to give their love back to this Royals team. That really did feel like a moment. Part of it was the guy who hit it. You know, that's always such a big part of these things, not just the moment, but who's in the center of the moment. And the fact that it was Salvador Perez, it's the captain, delivering that big drive to kind of put that game beyond doubt and send the crowd roaring. That was a pretty awesome deal. The other one happened Friday night, and I don't know how many fans got to see it, though I suppose more maybe could have seen it on Apple TV than could have seen it on Bally Sports. Adam Frazier hitting a go-ahead, a come-from-behind, go-ahead, game-winning home run in the 9th inning off of an all-star closer, Carlos Estevez of the Angels. That was genuinely startling. Like, of all the guys,
All people.
if I had told you, hey, the Royals are going to hit a come from behind, go ahead, game-winning home run in Friday's game. Here's the starting lineup. Tell me who it's going to be. Is Frazier your last guess? Because I think he's my last guess.
Honestly, it might be him or Blanco.
Yeah, I mean, Dairon Blanco, not a big-time power threat either, that's for sure.
But yeah, he's right at the top of the list.
Yeah, like, you never would have guessed that was coming from Adam Frazier, especially because he hadn't hit for any kind of pop. Was that his first extra base hit of the season? It was one of his first. No, it was his third. He had 2 doubles, and he clubs this home run, hooks it around the pole there in the funny corner out there at Angels Stadium. And when you have things like that where you steal a victory teams do, maybe, just maybe, this is going to be a season to remember.
Well, and that's what you were talking about earlier, Spencer, with the, having other guys step up, like the big moments for Bobby Witt or a great start for Cole Reagans or whatever. Like, obviously those are standout moments, but when it's guys who you are not expecting, when it's guys who are the role players who come up with those big moments, those are the things that feel especially special.
I think too, it's not necessarily a moment, but it's like Saturday night, the Royals fans leave the game with a sour taste in their mouth, and then Sunday, your second guy in the rotation just comes back and throws a master class, and it's like, oh yeah, well, guess what? There's times when your number one's going to be off. Well, guess what? We might have a number 1A.
Yeah. And
with Seth Lugo and what he's able to do. And I think that moment yesterday might be a moment the team looks back on later this season, depending on how it goes, and is like, we've got 2 aces.
Yeah, it's the reliability. It's the fact that you've got other guys. The other thing, too, the Royals haven't spiraled at all this year, because in recent memory, there's always that time, even if there's a stretch of positivity, where the death spiral hits, and all of a sudden, oh God, like, when are we going to win a game again? No one can hit. Starters aren't going deep into games. The bullpen is taxed and already not very good. What are we going to do from this point forward? And the Royals haven't hit that stage yet. I think for me, the thing that stands out the most, and with the benefit of hindsight, we now know that the Astros are terrible. I mean, they're not good. They can't do anything right now. But any team that supersedes expectations, and you've experienced this with your favorite teams before, Spencer, you could probably look to the Nats in 19 or the Caps when they won the title. I think of a couple of different Cubs teams in recent memory. There's a moment where you think, like, oh wow, the old us would not have done that. Like, even against a far, a team that has fallen far off a cliff like the Astros, we would not have been able to win 3 in a row, including 2 blowout wins. They won 1 game in extras, then they won the next 2 games by a combined score of 24-5. Like, that's what the Royals did at home against the Astros early in the season. That feels like a moment where you say, okay, we are on the way up. We are on the upswing. This was kind of our, hey, pay attention to us. Let's turn some heads, breakneck speed kind of moment. And the fact that they have continued to win since then has made people continue to pay attention to this team. So the fact that they were able to win that series, that stands out to me. And they were able to hammer them over and over, back 24-5 in 2 games.
To your point about, this would have been different with the old Royals. The old Royals would have found a way for this to go pear-shaped. They've had 2 separate 3-game losing streaks this year. The Royals have. They had the stretch where they lost the back-to-back games at home to Baltimore, and then lost the opener of that 4-game Toronto series. How they keep it from getting to 4 in a row? They win a game where they needed 4 and 2/3 scoreless from their bullpen, and Chris Stratton gave them, I think, 5 big outs, and Schreiber and MacArthur locked it down, and they beat a Cy Young candidate, an annual Cy Young candidate, Kevin Gausman, to end that losing streak, to stop it in its tracks. The other time they've had a 3-game losing streak this year is when they dropped the final 2 games in Detroit and they lost the opener in Toronto. Now they come back the next day and Reagans puts together an ace-like performance and outpitches a red-hot Jose Barrios, a game where the Royals jumped in front early, added to it with a couple of runs in the 8th. That was the Massey game where he hit the early home run and snap that losing streak. So like you said, avoiding that spiral, avoiding things getting ugly, avoiding that week where you go 1-5 and you start to wonder, you start to maybe have an identity crisis. That has not happened. Now look,
even then you point back to last week. It wasn't 3 losses in a row. It was 2 to the Rangers. They win that 3-2 game on Monday to open the series against the Brewers. Then they fall in the next game. Imagine if they hadn't won that game 3-2. It would have been 4 straight. And what have they rattled off since they lost that game 6-5? They've rattled off their 4-1.
Those moments, those difference makers.
But back to finish the point I was making. Over a course of 162 games, you're going to have a bad week. You're going to meet adversity. There is going to be that 4, 5, 6 game skid, that series where you get swept. Those things are moments that the Royals are going to encounter. But so far, in the moments where they faced a little bit of adversity, we've seen them respond really, really well. And that bodes well over the course of a full 162.
Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, Dan dove deep into the numbers and found some fun ones, because the Royals, they're not just good right now, but they play really fun baseball, which, again, if you had said that to me even a year ago, I would have said, nah, you're making that up, man. This team, this roster, there's no way outside of 1 or 2 dudes they actually play fun baseball. So we'll get to that. We've got some Chiefs to get to later on in the show today. Matt Verderame is going to join us. All that and much more is coming up on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 46 here on 580 Sports Talk, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer with you. We also have to give a special shout out today because it's not just our three-man crew, but back in studio up on Huntoon Hill in Topeka, Trenton Kraxner, our summer intern, day one for Trenton. You're going to be hearing from him throughout the summer. You might already know Trenton a little bit because, he has also been, for the past year, the sideline voice for Washburn football over on Country 106.9. And I think I shared this story with Trenton once before. So Trenton went to Valley Falls High School, and a couple years back at the 2A state tournament, Trenton on the basketball team at state, well, his voice was broadcast by yours truly on our airwaves. So everything coming a little bit full circle. So Trenton, we appreciate you being in with us. We'll get to know Trenton a little bit more when we are all back in studio tomorrow. Also, finally, a native Kansas presence on the show.
Right.
Kansas, Trenton's from up even further northeast than us. So now we've got Illinois, Colorado, Virginia, and finally some Kansas on the show. So Trenton, we appreciate it. And again, we'll get to know our new summer intern a little bit more coming up tomorrow on the program. But Dan, before we get to the end of this hour here in a couple of minutes, I did want to get to this. You were playing around. Was this Baseball Savant where you were playing around with this a little bit?
Yeah. So Baseball Savant's new toy that they put out today is bat tracking data, and it measures bat speed, essentially. And so this is a new metric that is out there. And I don't know that in the end there's going to be a lot to take away from it as far as predictive value. But I think for comparison's sake, it's a pretty nifty little tool to see who swings the bat the hardest and who makes the best contact given how hard they swing the bat. So it's really interesting, right? Like the guy who swings the bat the hardest in baseball is Giancarlo Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, that makes intuitively some sense. If you've ever watched that giant of a human swing the baseball bat, you can say, oh, yeah, he does. He swings pretty hard. The guy who swings the bat the slowest in the league is Luis Arraez. Also a great hitter.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you, right, that like bat control can be about having a slow bat, but being able to get to the sweet spot when you make contact. It's also why Luis Arraez isn't necessarily a power hitter, because I know you'll struggle to believe this, but swinging hard generally tends to create hard contact if you square it up real well. So digging into the numbers with the Royals, Bobby Witt Jr. has the fastest bat on the team. Would you have guessed it was Bobby Witt Jr.?
Yeah. Pretty easy guess there.
Would you have guessed that Vinny Pasquantino has the slowest?
No, see, because he is someone, and maybe it's just preconceived notions about his size and biases towards certain sizes, but I would have thought he would have had a fast bat too, because I think of him as a guy who can slug a little bit.
Yeah, you generally think about fast bat, you think about power. The average bat speed in the league is 72 miles an hour. That's how fast their guys are getting the bat through the zone. That's an average. Bobby Witt Jr. is 3 miles an hour above average. On average, his average swing is 75.2 miles per hour. The next four fastest, and these are among guys with enough swings to actually make the data
relevant,
valid. Yeah. Hunter Renfroe, Nelson Velasquez, Salvador Perez, and MJ Melendez. Again, because Renfroe and Velasquez haven't had good results, you don't think about you don't think about them as being particularly proficient hitters, but they have been power hitters.
Well, and think about the types of hitters that they are, right? Like Renfroe's got pop. That's when we were trying to sell this when he signed with the team for 1 year in the offseason. Well, he's going to add some pop as a corner outfielder. Nelson Velasquez, his whole thing is that he hits home runs.
Big, strong guy swings bat fast.
Professional
right?
DH,
Like there's a reason that Bryson DeChambeau swings a golf club faster than like Brian Harmon, if you know your PGA Tour guys. Like that makes a certain amount of sense. Those are big dudes. Renfroe, Velasquez, big guy. Salvador Perez is huge. MJ Melendez is a little leaner than those guys, but still a pretty big guy.
And a crazy athlete, too.
Yeah.
The opposite end of that spectrum, you have Kyle Isbell, and you've got Michael Garcia, and then Vinny Pasquantino with the slowest swing speed of all of those guys on average. But those are the three guys that are squaring the ball up the most. And now a squared up swing is being defined as when you make contact that suggests you hit the ball in the sweet spot. So based on your swing speed and your launch angle, if you hit the ball the way that your swing speed and launch angle suggests you should have, that's squared up. That's not quite a barrel. We've talked about barrels before, but a squared up ball. The guy swinging the bats the slowest square the ball up the most for the Royals, which is wild. But it's not just, again, I don't think there's a lot of predictive value here, but comparatively, things are interesting. So in all of baseball, Vinny Pasquantino has the 9th most squared up hits or contacts of any player in baseball, the 9th most. Michael Garcia, the 13th most. And Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr. tied for 15th. So of all players in baseball with enough data to matter here, the Royals have 4 of the top 15 when it comes to hitting the ball on the sweet spot. I think that's interesting. I think that suggests why these guys have been effective hitters and why Garcia has kind of started to get going a little bit, and why Pasquantino, Perez, and Witt have been carrying this Royals offense. So there's the square up, and then there's the blast. This is the other metric. A blast is when you swing the ball that fast, over 75 miles an hour.
Okay.
A fast swing and you square it up. You hit it hard. So again, you would expect Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez to have a lot of these, because of what their offensive numbers suggest. They do lead the Royals in those categories. Perez by percentage, and then Witt. Witt has done it 46 times, and Salvador Perez has done it 45 times. Comparatively, that is 6th, or rather in percentage, 6th and 7th in baseball. And by number, Bobby Witt Jr. has as many blasts as Shohei Ohtani. Tied for 3rd in baseball in that stat.
Shohei Ohtani, who, by the way, right now, if you were to name an MVP in the National League, would win it as a DH only.
Yes.
Yeah.
That Shohei Ohtani.
I mean, he's on pace for Triple Crown, I think. Is that what I saw?
And then one behind is Salvador Perez with 45 of those blasts. So the quality of contact has really been there for 2 guys who swing the bat fast and hit it on the barrel. And the other guys, in terms of percentage, the neighborhood that Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez are living in, William Contreras, the catcher for Milwaukee, who's having a tremendous year. Juan Soto, who we know to be an elite hitter. Shohei Ohtani, who we know to be an elite hitter. American League home run leader Kyle Tucker, and Giancarlo Stanton, one of the strongest and best power hitters of his era. So that's the neighborhood Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez in particular are living in. That's why we can say these guys are elite offensive talents, because of what they do that is unique and that is better than anyone else. Swing the bat hard and make hard contact when they do swing hard.
You know, it's interesting when you mentioned that it's not something that maybe necessarily brings a lot of predictive value, but I think if you really think about it, that makes sense. Like Michael Garcia coming around. We've said since the end of April, he's been batting right at or just over 300. Vinny Pasquantino has been one of the best hitters in baseball for the better part of a month now, almost a full month at this point. So if you're talking about guys who square it up regularly, who hit the ball hard regularly, we've been through things like the exit velocity before. All of that makes sense. All of that tracks. All of that would lead you to believe, yeah, this offense is indeed good. And when we get to some Royals expectations here at the top of the hour, that's why I don't think any of this is like fake. Like, I don't think this is smoke and mirror stuff. I think this is a team that has a really good process and knows what it wants to do to be successful. That's what I hated about the last 6 years of Royals baseball, is it just felt like what's the plan? What do you want to do? Batter to batter, pitch to pitch. What do you want to be? What are you going to be good at it? I think of it too like football play calling, like play to play. What are you trying to accomplish? And if you can't give me a clear answer, my assumption is that you're probably not going to be very good, and at least you're not going to be able to sustain that. For the Royals, make solid contact and hit the ball really hard all the time. Everybody does it for the most part on this team. All the guys you need to be good offensively do it. In turn, the Royals offense has been this much better. It's been awesome so far for the Royals. We'll talk a little more Royals baseball coming up to lead off the 3 o'clock hour of the show today. How have our expectations changed for this season? We'll also get to some NFL coming up next hour. Matt Verderame is going to join us. I know he gets excited for the schedule release. I don't know if he is going to predict every single NFL game again as soon as the schedule is released, but we will find that out when we talk to him coming up at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. All that plus your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. All that and more is coming up after the news right back here on 580 Sports Talk, live from Prairie Band. Hey now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, just getting underway live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. I'm Brendan Dworzinski, that's Dan Lucero, that is Spencer Dupuis, and our board op, our summer intern Trenton Craxner back at the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill, with you live from Prairie Band until 6 o'clock today. Still plenty to get to on the show here in this 3 o'clock hour. We're going to get to our updated expectations for the Kansas City Royals season coming up here in just a second. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Been baseball heavy. Maybe get to some other sports notes in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Matt Verderame is going to stop by for our weekly chat about all things National Football League, get his initial thoughts on what the schedule might look like, Chiefs versus Ravens opening night, all that coming up here in this hour. We would also love to hear from you on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And of course, in the YouTube comments, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can also find the video stream on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, on Facebook at WIBW News, and at 580WIBW.com. Don't forget to come hang out with us here at Prairie Band Sportsbook today. All sorts of stuff going on. The Putt Your Way competition coming up this weekend for the PGA Championship. I know Dan is excited about the PGA this weekend, so they've got some promotions running here at Prairie Band that include the potential to win a whole bunch of cool prizes, like 2 free rounds at Firekeeper Golf Course. We also have our random drawing coming up tonight and tomorrow for a pair of Royals dugout seats, 100 level home first base side seats for Friday. That is Royals versus Athletics. It is 2014 AL Champion Honors Night at the K. So they'll be honoring the 2014 team before the game. They will also have a t-shirt giveaway that day, Kelvin Herrera bobblehead giveaway that day. So if you want to be entered to win that pair of tickets, just come up here to Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. And all we need is a name and email address, and you will be entered into the hopper to win that pair of pretty dang good seats at the K coming up on Friday. We'll get to the playoff roundup later in the show. I do have the odds for the next 4 games we've got coming up, 2 tonight, 2 tomorrow. Celtics on the road, they are favored by 8.5 over Cleveland. I know a number of Celtics fans. I don't think a single one has said a single positive word the entire playoffs, and they're just steamrolling Cleveland.
Yeah.
They are humongous favorites to win the NBA Finals, and I don't know a single Boston fan who's like, oh, yes, I feel good.
Yes, they are overwhelming championship favorites right now. I'm looking at the board here at the Prairie Band Sportsbook. The Celtics are minus 139.
That's crazy.
To win the NBA championship. Those are bonkers odds. Those are better odds than you would get for the Nationals to beat the White Sox tonight. The Nationals are minus 136 to beat the White Sox. So that's what we're talking about here. And with great expectation comes the weight of those expectations. Mm-hmm. And it can be not a lot of fun when your team is supposed to cruise and win. It can be not so fun. And I think that's what Celtics fans are going through, especially because this core group hasn't won a championship. Nope. And so you get the if not now, when kind of feeling about what they've got going on.
The implied odds of being minus 139, that's essentially 58.2%. So the odds makers are saying there's a 58% chance the Celtics win the NBA Finals. We're only in the conference semis.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
And they are missing right now Kristaps Porzingis with no timetable for his return. He's a pretty important player.
Extremely important. Also, Thunder Mavs tonight in Dallas. Who do you think's favored?
I think it's probably about a pick 'em, isn't it? Dallas by 1 or 2.
1.5. Dallas by 1.5. They've won the last 2.
Just call me Cousin Sal, baby.
Pacers, Knicks tomorrow. Timberwolves, Nuggets tomorrow as well. We'll hear Dan's thoughts on the Nuggets coming up in the playoff roundup. We'll also have to ask Matt Verderame about his Knicks, how he's feeling after the last couple games.
They are quite literally falling to pieces.
Knicks fans appear to be the opposite of Celtics fans, where the Celtics are really good, but all of their fans seem to think the sky is falling at any given moment. Knicks fans, oh, man, I'm a little bit worried about your future because you have no players and everyone's injured. They'll fight you. You want to go right now? You want to fight about this? Jalen Brunson could win this series 1-on-5, which is, actually maybe going to happen.
On 1 foot?
Yeah, it might have to happen that way. Josh Hart 1-on-5 is what the rest of that series is going to look like. Before we get to that a little bit later on in the show, though, including Matt Verderame coming up at the bottom of this hour here on the program, wanted to get to Royals' expectations for the rest of the season. We are now a quarter of the way through the year, 25.9% of the way through the Major League Baseball season for the Kansas City Royals. They are 25-17, 25 wins in 42 games. I would have been thrilled with like 21-21. Honest to God, I probably would have been pretty happy at like 19-23. That is still,
hey, they got a pulse.
They're kicking around. They're competitive. Bobby Witt looks good. The pitching staff's been solid. They've raised the floor. I didn't expect the additions, well, specifically talking about Seth Lugo here, to be a ceiling-raising move. It has been for this Royals team. So before we get to where we view this team now and what we think the expectations for this team should be right now, what has impressed you the most? And I also wanted to ask about surprise, and maybe it's the same thing. It could realistically be the same answer. But what has impressed you the most about this team to get to this point at 25-17?
It's the starting pitching. I think any conversation about what this team has done through 42 games has to start with what the guys on the mound in this rotation have been able to submit. You're 9 starts in for your top 2 guys, Ragans and Lugo. 8 starts in for Brady Singer and Michael Wacha. Alec Marsh has made 6 starts. Daniel Lynch the 4th and Jonathan Bolin picked up the other 2 while Marsh was hurt. Those guys have pitched outstandingly well to start this season. They have been really, really good. And going back to that phrase, floor raisers, the problem with the Royals last year is they just had so many guys with really low floors making starts for them on a pretty regular basis. Now you got guys with pretty high floors, and the results has been you've gotten really good starting pitching. The starting pitchers this year for the Royals have pitched to a 3.18 earned run average in 42 games, and that includes 221 strikeouts in 237 2/3 innings. That is 8.5 strikeouts per 9 and a strikeout to walk ratio for this group of over 3-1. And I already mentioned earlier in the show that the Royals pitching staff as a whole leads the American League in the fewest home runs given up. The stuff that the Royals pitchers can control, strikeouts, walks, home runs, they have been outstanding to start the season. And look, I was high on Cole Ragans. You know, I said a lot of really nice things about Cole Ragans coming into this season. I thought he would pitch really well. I think he's actually underperformed a little bit. I don't think that's entirely his fault. I think the good for Ragans has still been really, really good. He's had a couple of clunkers that have dinged the ERA, but by and large, if you look beyond ERA, he has pitched about how I would have expected him to pitch this season. It's the guys like Brady Singer making a step forward, Seth Lugo pitching the way he has. That's really been outstanding. That has been the difference for me between a team that is kind of just floundering a little bit and a team that is contending in this Central Division is the work of the starting pitching staff. And the credit, it's all around, right? Obviously, you start with the guys who are actually on the mound doing their job. You give credit to Brian Sweeney, the developmental staff. Give credit for John Sherman and J.J. Piccolo for getting these deals for Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha over the line. So there's less pressure on Cole Ragans, and there's less pressure on Brady Singer because those veterans have been able to give you solid outings time after time as well.
Yeah, that's where it is for me. Shoot, I'll throw Alec Marsh in there. Marsh has been pretty good as a 5th starter. Are there limitations on what he is going to do? Yes, obviously. Has he done it well, though? Like, is he giving you 5 innings and a chance to win darn near every time he's out there? Yeah, and to bounce back after an injury and still be as productive as he was on Friday, awesome. Is that where you are, Spencer, too? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone could go outside the starting pitching with how good it's been.
I think the starting pitching is where it's at. Dan brings up a great point about maybe Ragans not having the best start to the season that everybody would have hoped. But as I mentioned in the last hour, I think it's the fact is their rotation is so good that you have an off night and then the next guy picks you up the next day.
Yeah.
The next guy picks you up the next day. Like it just they have 5 great caliber starting pitchers.
Mhm.
Yeah, Waka's had a tough stretch. Yeah, we know things that'll happen. We know there's already been one injury, but it wasn't a serious injury. That's where you have to worry about, honestly, is pitcher injuries, because they happen.
We talked about
They
that.
happen. You have to be prepared.
Talked about that at the start of the season. You wondered about the depth, but I think that the job that Daniel Lynch did in his first start of the year suggests that he's ready if he's called upon for a couple of weeks of starts. And, eventually this could be a team that gets Chris Bubich back in that mix as well as somebody who's started some games. Jonathan Boland didn't cover himself in glory in his regular season debut, but he's pitching really well down at Omaha. So I don't think that's as big a concern, still a concern, but I don't think it's quite the concern that maybe we thought it was going to be going into the season. One last number here to kind of underline the difference. I gave you the numbers for this year's Royal starting pitchers. Last year, Royal starters pitched to a 5.12 ERA, struck out one fewer batter per 9, and had a strikeout to walk ratio of 2.5 instead, or 2.5 to 1 instead of 3 to 1. Like, big quantum leap forward for the Royals pitching staff.
If I was going to split the two questions I posed into two separate answers, I think I would say what I've been most surprised by is how good the starting pitching is. I thought it would be better. I loved the Waka and Lugo signings in the offseason because I thought it would make things better. I think the thing maybe even beyond that I'm most impressed by, almost this entire team has taken a step forward. Like, are there concerns about the bullpen? Yes, we'll get to that in a moment. But Bobby Witt is doing what you would expect him to do. Vinny is back. He's all the way back. Salvador Perez is a better player than he has. Let me rephrase. He is a more complete player than he maybe has ever been in a career that is already borderline Hall of Fame. You're getting young guys who are stepping up. The pitchers have been better. I didn't think Seth Lugo would be this good. I think the staff, Matt Quattrero on down, go down to AAA, the developmental guys, the major league guys, they have done a remarkable job with this team. And I think they deserve a lot of credit. That, to me, has been equally as impressive as anything on the field, is the fact that they have a better goal in mind. They've improved this roster. And you can see from opening day on March 28th to today on May 13th, this team has taken some major strides, and I think the staff deserves a lot of credit for that. The flip side of that, the negative, and I don't want to dwell on negatives when the Royals are in a spot like this. I think for me, it's really things we've talked about a lot already over the last week or two. It's that you need to have a little bit more production from 6 through 9 in the order. The guys who are regularly going to contribute. Garcia's hitting better. Witt's a star. Vinny P has been playing like a star over the last month. Salvi's been great. You usually have one or so other guys who's been reliable. You just need your corner guys or somebody else to pick it up a little bit. That, I think, is coming along, and hopefully that's the kind of thing you can improve on at the deadline. The other thing, too, and we really dove into this a bunch last week, Dan, is the bullpen and just having a couple other guys who you can rely on, and knowing that you've got one or hopefully even two more options you can say, whether it is an off day for your best guys, whether those guys are going to be able to go, but you're waiting until the 8th or the 9th, one or two other guys you can really depend on, because Smith and, well, especially Smith, but Stratton also at least a bit, really haven't quite been that yet.
Anderson, too, has been disappointing. Those veteran guys who were brought in to stabilize the bullpen haven't quite been good enough. The fact that the Royals are where they are with those guys struggling with the weaknesses that they've had in the bullpen is a positive. No question about it, but that's something they're going to want to address. But, yeah, the bottom of the lineup, and specifically you look at the production that the Royals are getting from outfielders. Royals left fielders this year hitting .220 with a .282 on base and a .340 slug. Royals right fielders this year are way worse. A .155 batting average with a .231 on base and a .296 slug for right fielders this year. And frankly, the numbers from center field, I'm not as fussed about because, as I've said many times, Kyle Isbell's glove is more valuable than if you were to go get a guy with maybe a better bat, but not the kind of defense that Isbell is capable of playing, particularly in that big pasture at Kauffman Stadium. I'm not as worried about the numbers for center field, but you've got to get more production than that from your corner outfielders, and the Royals have not gotten that yet. That is something that needs to change. And to be honest, the numbers from DH aren't real good either. A .233 average, a .309 on base, and a .370 slug for Royals designated hitters this year. And that's a variety of guys, right? Like that includes Pasquantino, and that includes Perez, and that includes Renfroe and Velasquez, and anybody who's been a DH. But usually that's a position where you want to see a lot more offense than the Royals have gotten. So those are the areas for improvement. But again, it's good to be talking about those things as issues with a 25-17 record, and not just with a 25-17 record, but with a record and a record of scoring runs and preventing runs that suggests that maybe you should even be a little better than this. A run differential of 49 at this point in the year, plus 49, 194 runs scored to just 145 runs allowed. So this has been genuinely good baseball that the Royals have played, even given these weaknesses that we're discussing.
I believe, if I remember correctly, from right before opening day, the numbers we put on the Royals team, I was the lowest. I think I said 75 wins. Dan, you said 78, and Spencer was the most optimistic and said 500, 81, and 81. How much has that shifted? Spencer, I'll start with you. How much has that shifted? Do you still feel like 500 is the optimal goal here?
I think maybe over 500. I think there's a shot. If they can continue to play the way they have through the first 25% of the season, they're one of those surprise teams that are in the mid-80s and wins.
What do you think is the one thing? I guess this can be two-pronged here. What would be the one thing that would help them play even a little bit better and get to plus 500, and what might be the one thing that holds them back?
I think it's the same thing. I think it's the bottom of the lineup hitting. It's the guys in the corner outfielders hitting. You see a glimpse when they can do things, like the end of the series this weekend. They went 4 for their last 7, I think, and that was combined Renfroe
and
Velasquez. I think those are two key contributors that need to help you if you want to finish the season over 500. Because we talked about, baseball is a marathon. There's going to be those weeks where you're not winning as much, and then they can compound, and August is going to might be a tough month for them. Who knows? The dog days of the summer.
Right.
I think right now I would have them with 84 wins.
84.
That would be 500 ball the rest of the way, roughly. We're at 42 games played. That puts us at 120 left. 500 ball the rest of the way would be 85 wins.
Okay.
60 and 60 the rest of the way. If they're a 500 team from today forward, they would win 85 games. I think that they are probably that over the long term as well, probably right around a 500 team, given the weaknesses that they have in the bullpen. I do worry that unless somebody steps forward and picks up some of the slack, and it might just be, you've got the two guys in the back end getting the job done in Schreiber and MacArthur, and then you just kind of have to ride the hot hand, whoever it is, and figure it out. It might be Anderson for a week, like it was. He had those 6 consecutive scoreless outings. It might be Stratton for a week, but you got to ride and find that hot hand and have them be the consistent bridge for a week and change, or however long you need that for now, until that's something you can upgrade either organizationally or via the trade market. I think that's achievable. I think mid-80s is definitely achievable. Right now, like, if it feels to you, and we talked about this, we had a listener in the YouTube chat last week saying, this kind of feels a little smoke and mirrors-y to me. And it's like, well, I understand, because they're playing at a 96-win pace. This is not a 96-win baseball team. Like, right. I don't think nobody thinks they're going to go 96 and 66. The playoff projections and final record projections from Fangraphs have them winning 83 games. That feels about right to me in that 83-85 win window. I think they've adjusted my perception of them enough where I do feel like they are right around an average, right around an 81 win team. If they play like that the rest of the way, that's where they'll land.
I will increase my season-long prediction. My update would be I will put them at 500. And the reason I will give you a more conservative number here, and that I thought they would be 19 games improved if they went 75 and what would that be, 86 7. Is that what that number would be?
Yeah.
And I thought that would have been a great season compared to how bad they were a year ago. The reason I don't want to go any higher than that for now is I'm just taking a cautious approach because I don't know what a JJ Piccolo-led front office looks like with a better team at the trade deadline. Because I think this team could use another bat. I think this team could probably use another relief pitcher. I don't know how aggressive they will be in doing that. Would I be surprised if they are aggressive in finding those answers? No, absolutely not. We know just 2 weeks ago they were interested in going out and getting Luis Arraez. Are they actually going to put their money where their mouth is at that point? Without knowing exactly what that approach will be, I will take a slightly more conservative guess of what the final result this season will look like. But, I mean, shoot, if we get to August 30th, whatever the deadline, August 1st, July 31st, whatever the deadline is now, and the Royals go out and they get Taylor Ward and insert bullpen arm from a crappy team here, well, then, yeah, we should be talking about this being a team that should be in contention for a playoff spot all the way down to September 31st.
I think there are 1 or 2.
30th, excuse me.
Yeah, I think there are 1 or 2 consistent relievers and probably one more steady corner bat away from being really, really interesting. Not that they aren't already.
Mm-hmm.
Much more interesting than I would have imagined.
But like October interesting.
But postseason interesting. I think that's what they're going to have to do. That's what they're going to have to find. And maybe those solutions are in house already.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the solutions that they're going to have to find if they want to play at a real high level the rest of the way. But like I said, if they're just a 500 team the rest of the way, and I think even the most pessimistic Royals fan has to say, yeah, I mean, they've at least looked like a team who's capable of playing 500 over an extended stretch. They play 500 over the rest of the way, they win 85 games, and that might get you into the postseason. It did in the American League or in the National League last year. 84 was enough for a wild card. So,
and a World Series berth.
Yes, in the end, you are correct. So that's what can happen if that's what regression looks like. Now, if they regress to playing like a 70-win team, but you've watched, they don't look like that to you, do they?
No, I think they look a whole lot better than that. We're live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Resort and Casino in Mayetta. Come check us out here. We're with you throughout the entire show up till 6 o'clock live from the casino today. We've got hats. We've got koozies to give away. Your opportunity to be entered to win a pair of tickets to Royals A's coming up on Friday, all here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly next, and then we'll talk to Matt Verderame later this hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. Time to recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. Really good weekend for your boy here. I wanted to give a quick shout out for my good. Seasons ended for both Washburn softball and Washburn baseball. 32 wins for Harley Douglas's Washburn baseball team. Didn't make the NCAA tournament, but an awesome year. One of the best offenses in the country. The nation's leader in home runs, Peyton McCarg. So a great year for them. Washburn softball did make it to the NCAA tournament this year. Got bounced first weekend, but just an awesome year for Brenda Holliday's group. So a shout out to both of them. Also a quick good shout out to all the new grads. Graduation weekend. One of my best friends graduated from law school, so celebrated that on Saturday from Washburn Law. I know all the KU grads celebrating the last couple of days, K-State as well. So shout out to all the new graduates. I remember my graduation weekend fondly, even though it was longer and longer ago. So big shout out to all the new grads.
Yeah, absolutely. Seconded there. Good for the weekend for me. Your boy got his flower bed put
there we
in
go.
place. I found that I actually kind of enjoy the seasonal annual planting of the flowers. My wife and I go pick some out. We do some impatiens in the front yard and in the backyard planters. We do some hanging baskets, and I like getting them in the ground. I have talked about how where we're at and the trees that we have and all the little critters that visit us that make it kind of hard for us to have like a great lawn.
Mhm.
I take good care of it, but
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to have like lawn of the year ever. But I can put together a really nice looking flower bed. They make my wife happy, so that makes me happy. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed planting and doing some landscaping on Saturday. And it really makes you feel like you earn the rest of the day of doing absolutely nothing when you do that.
Spencer, you have a good this weekend?
Yeah, so I have gotten I don't know if you guys do this, but on the USPS website, you can sign up to see what your mail is each day.
Yeah. Informed delivery.
Yes, informed delivery. I started to do that. So because I obviously don't get it all the time. I don't want to waste time walking the mailbox every day, right? If there's not going to be one. So I had packages come in on Friday, so I knew about that.
Mhm.
But then I got a refund check from my last car insurance
Nice.
that I thought was going to take forever. So $88 of my $91 payment came back to me. That was nice. Also, Patrick Corbin gave up one run in an outing on Friday night.
A miracle. A
They
baseball
won
miracle.
5-1 against the Nationals. Beat the Sox Red Sox, and then 5-1. And he went 5 innings, gave up one run. Could have gone a little bit longer, but I was actually happy to watch part of Corbin's outing.
Thank you, Patrick Corbin Insider, specifically.
So yelling at the TV.
One quick bad for me. We'll talk about this more in the playoff roundup. The Knicks might not make it through the end of their series with the Pacers. They are all hurt. And it's Tom Thibodeau. This is what he is and what he will always be.
My bad is there's always one weekend that is harder than the rest for me to live 7.5, 8 hours away from my family. And it's the weekend where my mom celebrates her birthday and Mother's Day. Her birthday is the 11th, so they're always really close. And that weekend is always the time where I miss being around there the most. So happy birthday again, Mom.
Any bad for you?
Yeah, my bad is the Nationals' #1 prospect, James Wood, is like smoking the ball right now. Like he had like 4 home runs in 5 games or something. And
Still stuck in AAA?
they're not going to call him up. And their corner outfielders are injured. Yeah, so.
Yeah. No ugly for me. I had a really good weekend overall.
Yeah, me too. Now I got no ugly to speak of. I had a great weekend.
I woke up Saturday morning with like a kink in my neck. So I slept wrong Friday night, and then I slept wrong Saturday night. So
You need a new pillow, man.
I have brand new pillows that I bought when I got here. I think I just slept between the pillows, like my head fell between it on one side. So might need a chiropractor soon.
Coming up
Anybody
next.
got recommendations? Hit the comments.
Coming up next, we'll talk to Matt Verderame about all things NFL right here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, it is Matt Verderame, national NFL writer for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. You can also find him on Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and of course, you can also check him out over at the KC Sports Network with That Football Show. Matt, before we get to the NFL, though, and we do have plenty to get to, through 4 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals, how are you feeling about your Knicks?
I'm feeling better about the Knicks in my golf game. I just came off the range, and I'm pretty sure I killed somebody with a slice. But that person got off easy. They didn't have to see the next shot. You know what? Honestly, with the Knicks, I'm immensely proud of them as a fan of the team for the last 30 years. I mean, I don't know what else you could ask of them. You know, they're basically playing with like literally half the roster at this point. It has nothing against Indiana. Like, Indiana is taking advantage of the fact the Knicks are beat up, and credit to them. I still think the Knicks are going to win the series. I think they're just somehow going to gut these games out at the Garden. I think the crowd's going to just lift them. But if Anunoby can't play, I don't know. I don't know if they have enough. I give Menhard all the credit in the world in Game 3. That shot he hit at the end. I mean, if he doesn't hit that shot, they probably lose that game, and that series is over. But he hit it. I still think they win, but they're running on fumes.
I will say I have been extremely conflicted with this Knicks team because all of those Villanova dudes in either 2016 or 2018 made my life as a Kansas fan and graduate and at one point student absolutely freaking miserable. However, I'm also a Bulls fan and love Tom Thibodeau and always will. So I've been very conflicted. This is like the most Tom Thibodeau team of all time, however.
It is, and it's funny. Like yesterday, I tweeted something out like if the Knicks were healthy, they would have swept this Pacers team, which I honestly think they would have. I think they would have beat the pulp out of Indiana if they were healthy, but they're not healthy, and that's part of it. And a handful of people are like, "Well, this is what happens with Tibbs teams." I was like, "Is it really?" I mean, Randall got hurt with Jaime Hawkins taking a charge and it's a clean play, but he separated his shoulders out from here. Bogdanovich, like Batum landed on his foot and he needed foot surgery. Mitchell Robinson has a stress fracture in his ankle because Joel Embiid decided to tackle him in Game 3 of that series, somehow not be ejected for it. Like, you could argue the Anunoby thing with the hamstring, maybe that's fine, but like the rest of this stuff, I don't think any of it's because these guys are playing a ton of minutes. I think it's just bad luck. I mean, just unfortunate things that happened. And I hope they win the series. I know they'll get annihilated by Boston, but I just like them to get there.
Well, Matt, let's get to the NFL and incredibly fortunate timing here. As we are talking right now, Adam Schefter of ESPN is actively reporting that Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions has just received a 4-year, $212 million extension with $170 million guaranteed. That number is preposterous. I know we're putting you on the spot here, Matt, but when you hear those numbers and you hear Jared Goff and the Lions, what's your instant reaction to that?
That sounds right. Like that's so. I'm doing the math in my head. $53 million per, I believe. I don't have obviously everything in front of me in terms of like where that lands in terms of guarantees. It definitely puts him in the top 10. I can't do it off the top of my head if that puts him in the top 5. It's not as close. Look, I think that's right. I mean, he's had 2 really good years there. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's still in his 20s, believe that or not. It feels like he's been around forever. I think he's 28 years old, maybe he's 29. They were adamant. The Lions were adamant publicly and privately that he was not a bridge quarterback when they acquired him. And when they acquired him, make no mistake about it, he was a salary dump by the Rams. I mean, the Rams sent Goff and 2 first-round picks because the rest of the league looked at that contract as an albatross. Brad Holmes, who came from the Rams to be the GM of the Lions, liked Goff, believed in Goff. And Goff, look, he's got a second win here with Brian Johnson as his OC. He's got a ton of weapons around him. But if you're the Lions, you should have been to the Super Bowl last year. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, the Niners, they came back, they won, give them all the credit in the world. I mean, they had no business winning that game. They were down 24-7. Mm-hmm. They needed one miracle after the next. If I'm the Lions, I'm thinking, look, I know this guy can get us to a Super Bowl. He should have done it last year. I have no problem with them signing that contract.
I'm looking right now, according to Spotrac, they actually have that as number 2, only behind Burrow, a $500,000 a year ahead of Justin Herbert. So that, I think, Matt, and, far be it for me to give a bunch of credit to the Detroit Lions, but I feel like this is something that actually sets them up really well going forward. I know that's going to be a squeeze on the salary cap, but by the same token, the talk for 2 years now at least has been, okay, yeah, but can you really depend on having Jared Goff be your guy forever? At some point, they'll probably want a new quarterback. Now that they know he's locked in, I have to imagine that makes it a little bit easier for them to know what they need to do to build around him to keep that as a contending team.
Yeah, there's certainty. There's cost certainty. There's roster certainty. And on top of that, look, I mean, I get Goff isn't the sexy name, right? He's not a guy, even though he's a former first overall pick, you don't look at him and go, man, Jared Goff, like, there's the guy who's going to lead the way. That being said, Jared Goff's won a lot of games in his career, and he's been really successful. And his stats the last couple of years, he's been awesome. And he's always played well in the playoffs. It's not like he's been some guy who's fallen apart in bigger moments. Teammates love him. That was true even in LA. So, I think if you're the Lions, the other part of this too is you get ahead of Prescott's going to get paid by somebody next offseason, whether it's Dallas or elsewhere, he's going to get paid. Tua is due for an extension. Now, you could argue whether or not Tua should be extended by Miami, but he's going to get paid at some juncture. Trevor Lawrence is going to get paid by Jacksonville at some point here. Like, the longer you wait, the more the money. It's always true in the NFL. You want to wait, go for it. But you're just going to pay the guy more, barring an unfortunate injury or something like that. That guy's always getting paid more the following year because the cap's going up. So if you're the Lions, I know that sounds like major sticker shock. $63 million. Dak Prescott might get $60 million a year next season. Does anyone think Dak Prescott's better than Goff? Like, he's maybe the same. Maybe. I'd probably take Goff. So if I'm Detroit, I'm fine with that number.
Our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also part of That Football Show on the KC Sports Network, and produces the Matt Verderame Show, which is a Patreon that you can subscribe to and get Matt's insights on football. You can also hear him here on Monday at this time on 580 Sports Talk. You can find him on Twitter, too, at Matt Verderame. Matt, another big signing today was Antoine Winfield Jr. agreeing to terms on a 4-year deal with the Buccaneers. It makes him the highest-paid defensive back in NFL history. $45 million guaranteed, $84.1 million. He's locked up for the long haul. The Buccaneers also spent some money this offseason keeping Baker Mayfield around for 3 years, gave Mike Evans a big 2-year contract. What do you make of what Tampa Bay has done? Do you think that they're much of a contender to do anything beyond maybe win a lousy division?
I think Tampa Bay is a team that can win 10 games and, win the division and do what they did a year ago. Maybe get the right matchup and win a playoff game. I don't see them as a team that you look at and go, oh, they could make a run to the Super Bowl. I don't foresee that happening because I think they're capped at the quarterback and everything else. But look, Winfield's a great player. He's an all-pro. He deserves to get paid. We could always sit here and argue about the wisdom of paying a safety $20+ million a year. I mean, that's a lot of money. That is, that's a premier left tackle. Like, that's a lot. That being said, he is a great player. Like, I am all for paying guys who are the best at their position, regardless of their position. He is the best. You could argue he's the best safety in football. So, I don't mind Tampa shelling out that kind of money. At the same point, I look at them and I say, I think, have kind of reached the ceiling. And next year, even now having signed Winfield, like Levante Davis is a free agent next year. Tristan Wirfs is an unrestricted free agent next year. Chris Godwin is an unrestricted free agent next year. Like, it kind of feels like they're just biding time. But I think this year, look, them or Atlanta, probably the favorites in the NFC South. And who knows what's going on in Atlanta based on their wild offseason.
9 players were franchise tagged. 8 of them now, after the Winfield contract, have signed long-term deals with the teams that franchise them. The only one still out there is T. Higgins. Do you think that saga goes all the way to the July 15th deadline? And at this point, how do you see that winding up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, 8 guys on the franchise tag were extended, and the 9th guy plays for a team owned by Mike Brown. So, yeah, I mean, that's no shock. I would be – I've learned in my career not to speak in absolute. I would be very surprised if the Bengals signed T. Higgins to a long-term extension. I just don't see them doing it. Other than Joe Burrow, who, look, if you're not going to sign him, you might as well fold the franchise. They don't give anybody guaranteed money. Like, even a couple of years ago when they actually spent some money in free agency, if you look at the contract, there was no guaranteed money in almost any of them. Like, Trey Hendrickson got a big money deal. It was like $4.56 or $4.60. He signed for like $16 million guaranteed. Like, they weren't going to give him guaranteed money. They just don't do it. And they're going to have to give Chase the money. They're going to have to pay Jamar Chase. I would be shocked if the Bengals, who spend no money, all of a sudden just said, yeah, T. Higgins, no problem. Here's $30 million a year. Because, I mean, look, it's going to be between 25 and 30 million. Maybe it's toward 25, get a little bit of a down year last season. But it's going to be that. I mean, it's going to be 4 and let's just say 110. So are the Bengals going to give him $70 million guaranteed? No, probably not. That's why he wants to be traded. That's why Trey Hendrickson wants to be traded. I don't think the Bengals will give in. I don't think they'll trade either guy. And I think the reality is both of them will play out this year in Cincinnati, and then they'll be off to some other pasture in 2025.
We're joined by Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, speaking of receivers, the Chiefs had a receiver in Zay Jones to visit on Thursday. He signs Friday with the Cardinals. What are the options left for the Chiefs if they want to sign a guy, especially with the latest allegations against Rashee Rice?
They're pretty minimal, honestly, at this point. I mean, the Chiefs really bring back one of their own, Cole Hardman. Dare I say MVS, which I never thought I'd say in a million years, but here we are, like, maybe. But, you know, I think the Chiefs view this differently than a lot of people view this. I think the Chiefs view their receiver situation as like, hey, look, drafted Worthy, got Hollywood Brown, and going to have Rashee Rice at some point, you'd think, this season. So not really all that worried about it. Like, it'll just kind of work itself out. I think they look at it like they can just survive. Now, I would argue that it would really behoove them to bring in a veteran. I think they need one. I think they need somebody to bridge the gap here a little bit. Not that it'd be like 4 and 4 through 8 games or something, but I think it'd make them struggle. You're either Worthy not developing or an injury away from just being a disaster at receiver for Rashee Rice suspended. So, I think they need to bring in a vet. At this point, though, the question is like, who? Do they trade for a guy? I mean, I know Denver is Denver, and I don't know that they would deal with the Chiefs. But Denver's in a full-blown rebuild. Whether or not they want to admit it or not, that's what they are. If you're the Chiefs, you call up George Payton and say, hey, look, man, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick for Cortland Sutton. I mean, would they do it? Maybe they would. Maybe Denver would be like, we're not going to trade him to you. We just can't do it with the optics. Fine. But I'd at least make the phone call. I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going to get dealt, and I don't think the Chiefs are in a position to pay him $30 million a year. So I think that's probably harder to pull off. But if I'm Kansas City, I'm making some calls. I'm trying to figure out what I can do, but it's probably going to be more toward, hey, you know, who's available either for a cheap deal on a 1-year contract or, you know, a trade that's not going to cost a ton. That's probably how they're looking at it. But they're in a position where, yeah, I mean, look, if Worthy develops and he and Brown are healthy, they're fine. If Worthy's the typical Andy Reid rookie receiver, and it takes him 8 to 10 games to get going, they're going to look a lot like they did last year offensively for a while before Rashee Rice gets back.
Matt, real quick before we let you go, the NFL schedule will be released in full coming up on Wednesday. I believe that's a 7 o'clock Central Time TV start time if you want to watch the TV broadcast of the schedule release. We did find out today, though, it'll be Chiefs-Ravens NFL opening night, the first Thursday of the year. How are we feeling about that matchup to open up the year?
Good. I thought it would be either them or Houston. I thought it would be Houston. But Baltimore... Look, it's the AFC Championship game rematch. The Chiefs probably without Rasheed Rice in that game, probably without Ameno. The Ravens are going to be a lot different than they were a year ago. No Mike McDonald. Jadeveon Clowney's gone. Patrick Queen's gone. Geno Stone is gone. 3/5 of the offensive line is gone. Keaton Mitchell probably won't be back yet. It's a team that doesn't have Dobbins or Edwards anymore, but now, of course, there's Derrick Henry. No Odell Beckham. No Duvernay. The Ravens are not the same team they were a year ago. The Chiefs, I mean, look, we're sitting here, whatever it is, 4 or 5 months out. The Chiefs probably should win the game. But it's a good game. It's an intriguing game. And it'll be one that I'm sure will do massive ratings for the NFL.
Matt Verderame covers the entire National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. You can also check out his Chiefs-centric show, The Matt Verderame Show, on his Patreon, and That Football Show with Tucker Franklin over at the KC Sports Network. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well, at Matt Verderame. Matt, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the schedule release coming up on Wednesday.
Will do, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from SI.com. Awesome insight, as always, into everything going on around the NFL. That is going to do it for this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. But when we come back after our national and local news, we'll get into some of those NFL notes. We'll get our reaction to that Jared Goff contract. I'm happy for Jared Goff, the guy. I'm a little curious about what the Lions' plan is. We're going to get to that coming up here. We'll get some Chiefs thoughts as well. Our breakdown of that season opening game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. We'll also take your texts to the 580, your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line 785-272-9429. That's coming up after the news on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, we are halfway home on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, our summer intern, Trenton Kraxner, back at the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill. We are live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. If you want to come up and see us, we'll be here throughout the rest of the show today up until 6 o'clock. From the capital city, just drive straight up 75, get off at 150th Road. You cannot miss Prairie Band. We're right here in the Sportsbook throughout the show today. And before we get to everything else we'll get to in this 4 o'clock hour, plenty of Chiefs, talk a little college hoops. What is wrong with you? Of course, we are happy to be joined by Kyle Sipe from Prairie Band Sportsbook. Kyle, as always, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, Brendan, thanks for having me on.
Well, obviously, always a fun time when we get to come up here. Love getting to see you guys put down a few bets. I'm pretty sure Dan is about to put in a future on every single competitor at the PGA Championship this weekend. Close to it. How many names did you just list off and go, ooh, 66-1? I can see it.
I probably went through about 4 or 5 names I was intrigued by in the PGA Championship. 4 or 5.
So speaking of the PGA Championship, Kyle, coming up this weekend, I know you guys, we talked about it a little bit this past week promoting the event, but the Putt Your Way competition here. I'm not a golfer personally. It's awesome. If you have any sort of interest in golf, I have a feeling you're going to be interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Putt Your Way, we started last month during the Masters. Had over 100 people come out and putt, had over $1,000 in free bets given out. So we just decided we're going to go ahead and put it on repeat for the rest of the major season. So starting this Thursday at 5 a.m., any $25 minimum bet, you go ahead and bring that up to our team at the sportsbook counter. We'll give you a stamp and we'll give you a free putt at $100 free bet. So you make the putt, you get the free bet. We're also giving away a little golf. The first putt made each promo day. So that's first putt Thursday, first putt Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll win a couple rounds at Firekeeper.
And then you were telling us you've played Firekeeper before. It's an awesome course.
Magnificent course. One of the best I've ever played.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's, again, if you're into golf, I don't know how you can beat something like that. Have you gotten out to Firekeeper so far this year?
Oh yeah, couple times. Yeah.
How's the short game?
It could be better. It could be better. They got it firm and fast over there, so having to work on that.
So where is the putt?
The putt will be we'll put the green right outside the sportsbook here.
Oh, perfect.
So you bring your bet slip up to the counter. We'll escort you out to the green, and we'll get it rolling.
You have a caddy to help read it. So,
They do. They know how the green slopes. They got the stemp down, so we got it all going.
No, I like this. It's a controlled environment. You can't blame the elements or anything. It's just you and your putting ability. I like that.
That's right. Your putting ability, and the two-sided putter.
So along with that, and again, that's coming up this weekend, 16th through the 19th here right outside the Sportsbook. Tell us a little bit about the King of the Diamond Challenge as well, because I was looking into this. This starts coming up next month, so we've got a couple of weeks before this begins. But for those who are interested in putting some action down on Major League Baseball, some really cool prizes available with this too.
Yeah, for sure. So we're really letting people come out. $10 4-leg minimum parlay will get you qualified. And the 3 guests with the most parlays bet each month will take home some pretty awesome prizes. First place will score a one-night stay, $100 property credit, and $100 in free play. Second place each month will get $100 and $150 in free play, and then third place we'll give a couple Royals tickets. So that'll run for June, July, and August.
That is awesome. With how good the Royals have been so far, we've been talking. When is the last time we spent over an hour straight talking Royals baseball? Not since either you or I have been here.
No.
There's no way.
I was looking, saw this. They're 8 games over 500 right now. It's the first time they've been 8 games over 500 since July of 2016. I had not yet started at 580 WIBW the last time the Royals were this far above 500. So yeah, we're in uncharted waters here for sure.
Yeah, I was a college senior at KU at that time. With how good the Royals have been, have you seen an influx of a lot of activity on Royals baseball here at the Sportsbook?
Definitely. And more so with, when's the game? You guys going to have the game on?
Mm-hmm.
They've made it pretty hard for us to watch nowadays, but yeah, we got them all, and definitely have seen the volume rise for the Royals during their pretty good start here.
Yeah, generally speaking, in recent years, well, the last 2 years, when I've wanted to put a little Royals action down, it is always on them to lose. Like I don't think I'd ever bet on the Royals to win a game before in any sort of mode. Now, though, I why wouldn't you? I mean, this is the right time. We talked about that during college basketball season. Like, hey, when KU or K-State is good, that's the best time to get in on some of this action.
Ride the wave.
So that is all coming up here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. The King of the Diamond Leaderboard Challenge, that begins next month. It runs June, July, and August. And this weekend, the Putt Your Way competition for the PGA Championship, the 16th through the 19th this week. Kyle, thanks as always for having us out. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
That is Kyle Sipe, the director of the sportsbook manager here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. Again, we're at the casino throughout the rest of the show today. And if you come out along with all of this, you can get more information about the Putt Your Way contest. You can get more information about King of the Diamond. Obviously, put in your bets for whatever action you want to put it down tonight. Obviously, NBA, NHL, MLB, all in action tonight. But all you got to do, come to our table, give us your name, your email address. We'll enter you to win a pair of Royals tickets as well to Friday's game against the A's as they honor the 2014 AL champions. Bobblehead giveaway, t-shirt giveaway. Should be a fun one. So just come up to Prairie Band Sportsbook. Let us know. We'll put you into the pot, into the hopper for our random drawing for those Royals tickets coming up later on this week. And a big thanks again to Sportsbook manager Kyle Sipe here at Prairie Band for telling us a little bit about these promotions going on here at the Sportsbook. Wanted to get to some NFL news here. We were going to just jump right into the NFL schedule, which again, of course, is going to be talked about in full coming up later on this week. But we got to get to the breaking news that broke while we were talking to Matt Verderame last hour. Jared Goff, new contract for the Detroit Lions, 4-year extension, $212 million, 170 guaranteed. So $53 million annual value. That is second in the NFL for all quarterbacks, only behind Joe Burrow. That surpasses Justin Herbert. That surpasses all those other guys, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, all those guys who got those contracts a season ago. I am very happy for Jared Goff. I think that is an awesome story. You go from highest of high, number 1 overall pick. You're there when the team moves to LA. There's a bunch of attention on you. You play in a Super Bowl. It all kind of went downhill. Sean McVay could not wait to get him out of Los Angeles and to dump him as soon as possible. And now he is getting his name chanted at Red Wings games, at the NFL draft. They're chanting Jared Goff. That's unbelievable for a guy who is not exactly like Mr. Personality, at least publicly either. He has become a beloved figure there, so I am happy for him. That's awesome that he is getting that gigantic contract. And I agree with what I asked Matt Verderame about last hour, and that, hey, look, after 2 years, really 3 years now of saying, well, eventually they've got to get a long-term quarterback because you're not going to stick with Goff that long. Well, they are sticking with Goff that long. He is the long-term quarterback. That helps you out in terms of knowing what pieces you need to put around him. Here's the problem, though. This is also $170 million guaranteed over the next 4 years to a top 12 quarterback at the top half of the league for sure. But how many dudes are still ahead of him? That I know it's the going rate, but that is a lot of money for this guy.
The numbers flatter him. You know, he's a guy where you look at the stat sheet and there are things that really jump off the page to you. Over the last 2 years, he's second in the NFL in passing yards, just raw yards. He's second in touchdown to interception ratio, so he doesn't put the ball at risk.
Mm-hmm.
He's tied for third in touchdowns. Again, this is over the last 2 seasons. And he's fourth in the NFL in first down rate among all quarterbacks the last 2 years. So even some of the more advanced, just beyond the raw numbers, look favorably upon Jared Goff. That being said, if you go into a big game and the opposing team's quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, you're worried because, man, we got to beat that guy. If you go into a big game, the other team's quarterback is Josh Allen or the other team's quarterback is Joe Burrow, you're worried.
Yeah.
If you go into a game and the other team's quarterback is Lamar Jackson, you have some concerns about the way that he can impact the game. I do not believe that teams go into a game against the Lions thinking, crap, we got to deal with Jared Goff.
Uh-huh.
And that's the difference, right? Like, That's the difference between the elite guys and the guys who are just good. And nobody here is going to say that Jared Goff's a bad quarterback. I don't believe that at all. Yeah, like if you want to argue for him to be in the bottom 10, like, or the top 10, but like the bottom of the top 10 in the league, I would listen to that argument. And if you just base it on the numbers, you'd have a pretty compelling case. But I don't think this is a guy where you think, Oh, I am no doubt about it, winning a championship with Jared Goff at quarterback. That being said, $170 million guaranteed is kind of the going rate for being better than average at quarterback. And you know damn well you're not winning anything of consequence if you are not better than average at quarterback.
Yeah.
So this is just the going rate, and this is when it is time for him to get paid. So this is what it is. I mean, we look at the numbers and go, 53 a year for Jared Goff? That's absurd. No, 53 a year is the going rate.
Market rate.
Yeah, that is what the market will bear for a quarterback of Jared Goff's abilities.
And you bring up what the market bears. One of the guys that's going to sign a contract, whether it's with the Cowboys or with a different team, Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
He's not great, right? But he's going to get that market rate.
he's going to surpass this next year.
He's got to, right?
It's not impossible.
Unless he gets injured.
Yeah, unless he gets hurt. Well, shoot. Kirk Cousins got hurt. He's still got $100 million guaranteed. He's in his late 30s.
Yeah.
So I get it. I totally understand why you make this deal. I totally understand why you pay him this money. This is just a lot of money for Jared Goff. Because Dan, you're right. You put it perfectly. He is not the kind of quarterback who you fear the quarterback. Might you fear the Lions offense? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, great coordinator. They've got a true number one.
A lot of speed, a lot of weapons.
Maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. Absolutely. But when you go face the Chiefs, you think, oh my God, like we got to defend Mahomes. When you face the Bills, God, we got to face Allen. And I think there are some other guys who are in that same vein. It's what I think it was, I don't know if it was Robert Mays or Ben Solak, one of those NFL guys who's coined the phrase, the trick shot quarterbacks. Those guys, even some of the younger ones who maybe aren't at that superstar level yet, you think, man, they can get on a heater where they will just carve you up. Jared Goff might carve you up, but that's not the kind of thing you worry about going into a game. So that's the concern. But what do you do? Do you say we're not going to pay you this? And then he says, okay, I'm going to walk and someone will?
If you guarantee that you take a third day draft flyer and he turns into Brock Purdy and he can run your offense as effectively as Purdy runs the San Francisco offense, and then I guess so. But I guess like the flip side of this point that, okay, yeah, Kansas City has a quarterback, Baltimore has a quarterback, Cincinnati and Buffalo have quarterbacks where you really have to account where that guy can beat you doing the things that he does. How many other of those guys are there?
It's a good question.
Is Aaron Rodgers still that guy? That remains to be seen.
Incomplete, yeah.
Is CJ Stroud that guy? Like,
could be.
Signs are pointing to he could be, but we've only got 1 year with him.
Yeah.
Outside of that, how many of those guys really are there? And
I think there's a lot of could be's, but I think that's a good point that how many of the odds are if you have 5 guys who are could be's, how many of them actually turn into that guy? Statistically speaking, not very many of them.
Yeah. And so if you have like statistically excellent, which Jared Goff has been, and you have a guy who's been to 2 conference championship games and a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises, like there is evidence that if this were Jared Goff's first team, like the Rams, I think were right to do what they did and say, hey, look, we bumped our head on the ceiling of what this can be and who this guy can be. We've got to raise our ceiling talent wise. And though Matthew Stafford may not be like in the upper echelon all time, there's no doubt there's more talent there than with Jared Goff. Like we talk about more arm talent. It's Stafford over clears Goff, no question about it. I think 10 out of 10 people would tell you the same. But now that he's done it in 2 different locales, running 2 similar but different kinds of offenses with 2 different sorts of environments, 2 different sorts of pressure on his shoulders, then I think there's a little bit more credence to the idea that, okay, yeah, this is a guy that we do trust. This is a guy that we do pay long term. And like we said earlier, this is what the market says that caliber quarterback is worth.
2 questions here that arise in the last moment from what you said. Number 1, is Stafford one of those guys?
I don't think Stafford was ever one of those guys.
Yeah.
No.
See, I feel like you know how much I dislike Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. I feel like the good version of Matthew Stafford has been that guy. I also don't know that you can guarantee that you are going to get that guy. I don't know that you can guarantee that he is always going to be that option. Whereas Mahomes, 17 times a year, he is that dude.
Yeah.
He's always going to be that. The other thing, too, and kind of to further that point, how many of those guys are in the AFC and how many of those guys are in the NFC? How many proven that guy quarterbacks are in the AFC versus the NFC? Because that might also play into this calculation.
In the NFC, the number might be 0 because I don't believe that about Brock Purdy. I don't believe that about Jalen Hurts, and I don't believe that about Dak Prescott. I don't think Matt Stafford is there anymore if he ever was. And, like Jordan Love is a possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
who's also in a contract here.
Yeah, he is going to get paid soon. I assume he is going to get his contract in the near future. Probably the Packers probably not thrilled that Jared Goff just got this contract. I don't know how much that's going to affect what Jordan Love ends up getting paid, but probably not thrilled. They were not the next team to give a quarterback a contract. So to me, I think it makes a little bit more sense if you're going to say the NFC is going to be more wide open for longer than the AFC. I think that makes it make more sense. It makes sense regardless, but maybe helps it make a little bit more sense.
I mean, you talk about guys. A guy that comes to the top of my list is a rookie because of what he has around him in Caleb Williams. I mean, they're setting up Caleb Williams really good in Chicago. Can he do the right things his first year? He could be like the guy in the NFC after 1 year.
I'm a great big believer in Caleb Williams. I really, really am.
And I've turned the corner on that. We've discussed this where I wasn't much of a big fan of him, but I think with what they have put in Chicago, he could be like the face of the NFC in a year or two.
I think it's possible. I think it's absolutely possible. I don't think it is impossible to say, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far overboard here. I think there is an outcome. There is a world in which the 3 best quarterbacks in the next couple of years in the NFC could all be in one division. Williams has to develop. Love has to take another step.
And J.J. McCarthy, yes.
J.J. McCarthy. Jared Goff, though, is there. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too excited because my quarterback is in that group, but it's possible. The NFC is wide open, wide open, and I don't think there's anyone. You can look at a couple of teams. Like I thought the Packers had a good draft. I thought Seattle had a good draft, and they've got their quarterback at least for the time being as well. There are good teams in the conference, but it's not the kind of gauntlet like you might have to face in one season. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, C.J. Stroud, like. You don't have that in the NFC. You don't have that kind of gauntlet by any means. We're going to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We will get to the schedule a little bit later on. We do know who the Chiefs are playing first game of the season this year. It'll be the Baltimore Ravens. We will break that down. First, though, we've got What Is Wrong With You. That's coming up right on the other side of this commercial break here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk on this Monday, start of a brand new week of What is Wrong with You. And we've got two new stories that will go head to head today to try to take our first crown of the week. Dan, I believe it is you and I with stories today. Why don't you go first with our What is Wrong with Yous?
We are checking in with our old friends at Action News Jax.
Oh,
It's been a while since we've had a good Action News Jax story. This is from St. Augustine, Florida, where a man's ill-fated attempt to take a joyride.
Whoa.
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 Be a very different story.
I think that one would break the unwritten rules of What is Wrong with You.
A man's ill-fated attempt to take a joyride on a boat he didn't own ended in a watery mess off the shores of St. Augustine, prompting a flurry of activity on social media. According to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Anthony Terry found himself in hot water after allegedly stealing a woman's $100,000 boat near Conch House Marina. The boat is now afloat but listing heavily, became a viral sensation on Facebook with images of its accident spreading rapidly. Describing the scene, one eyewitness shared, "He approached my daughter and her boyfriend in his underwear with a boat bumper tied to his arm while wearing an ankle monitor." Wildlife officers reported that last Tuesday, he stole the boat from a private dock located just south of Conch House Marina. Terry's unusual attire and suspicious behavior raised eyebrows, especially considering his prior record. He was reportedly on probation for domestic battery.
Yeah.
Further testimony from a concerned boater who wanted to remain anonymous painted a picture of Terry's sailing incapabilities. It was very clear he had little boating knowledge, the boater remarked. He struggled with basic knots. He didn't know whether to attach his anchor. Meanwhile, the boat's owner remained unaware of the theft until contacted by local authorities. She now faces thousands of dollars in repair costs for the vessel. Terry has been charged with grand larceny.
You ever been on a boat?
Like a ferry, yeah.
Okay, but
On a boat.
like a boat where you had to put out bumpers or an anchor or something?
No, I've never done that in my life.
I've not a large one, but I've been on speedboats that have that kind of thing. Yeah. It's fun. It's a good time. You ever get a chance, would absolutely recommend. You never want anything described as a watery mess. Normally that's a bathroom thing, but it's never good in any sort of arena where you have a watery mess.
No. How do you put your boat in a position where it gets stolen? Like, don't you have a better anti-theft system for your boat?
I mean, you would hope so, obviously.
Some jabroni with no clothes on and an ankle monitor steals your boat?
Yeah. Do you leave the key inside? Like, can you get a boat stolen by leaving the keys in the ignition?
I just love how the details so richly reported by the Action News Jax folks. Like, it's one thing to just know, okay, yeah, he's on probation. He's got an ankle monitor. He was in his drawers. He was freaking people out. He stole this boat and he wrecked it. But I love that we've got like a boating expert, anonymous boating expert chiming in and saying, yeah, he didn't know how to boat at all. He had no boating skills. He couldn't tie knots. He didn't know what an anchor was.
I mean, clearly, since he had the boat bumper tied to himself, that is not where that goes.
If he'd known anything about boating, he could have taken that boat all across the marina and had a great time. But no, he was incapable of boating.
This absolute fool.
They fried him. Like, yeah, one thing, yeah, you're going to jail for grand larceny, and you're a crappy boater, too, on top of it.
I wonder if this is the kind of thing where it's like a very tight-knit group of boaters. Like, boaters are just like a fraternity, and if you disrespect the art of the boat, you are just like, you're a scab to them. You're nothing. You're mincemeat to them.
This guy ain't no boater.
Nah, you fraud.
He ain't no real boaters, man.
Wow, that's a 580 Sports Talk throwback reference right there. All right, before we get ourselves in trouble, our next story today, also from the state of Florida. Fox 35 Orlando is the new Action News Jax. We've gotten an inordinate number of stories from this TV station. We're heading to Orlando, though, where a Central Florida basketball coach is in legal trouble after allegations surfaced that he misappropriated funds from his players for personal use, including purchasing subscriptions to the adult content platform OnlyFans.
Oh, no.
Additionally, Roderick Wilmot reportedly diverted money intended for his players' expenses towards vacations and gambling rather than fulfilling his obligations as their coach.
Hold up. Is this the same Roderick Wilmot who played at IU? You play in Indiana? Yeah, it's the same guy.
Wow. Not running the same kind of program that old Bobby Knight ran. It's a slightly different approach. So Wilmot runs the Mott Sports Academy, which is a prominent basketball program in Orlando, and he's facing multiple charges over this, including a scheme to defraud. According to the Osceola County Sheriff's Office, an investigation revealed that Wilmot had rented vacation homes for his basketball program without paying for his players' accommodations, accumulating debts exceeding $19,000. Similar incidents occurred at the Westgate Resorts, where Wilmot allegedly failed to settle a balance of over $7,000.
Like Bishop Sycamore.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Investigators disclosed that Wilmot solicited thousands of dollars monthly from the parents under the guise of tuition, depositing substantial amounts into his personal bank account. Financial records indicate these funds were used for his personal indulgences rather than benefiting the players. The investigation began after they received a tip from the a tip received by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. In a brief phone conversation with the TV station, Wilmot said he was wrongfully detained, but then did not immediately explain why. He agreed to a follow-up interview with Fox 35 News in Orlando, and then would not pick up the phone when they tried to call him back. Neither the coaching staff, parents, nor players associated with the program have offered any comments on the situation.
I just want to understand what was so impressive about a guy whose career highlight was scoring 12.5 points a game for an IU team that was a 7 seed his senior year. Now, we're going to break this guy off a lot of money to coach our kids.
Great question. I do not know. There are always stories like this that pop up here and there. Maybe you know someone who has been affected by a story like this at some point in some sort of locale. What a dirtbag. I'm going to...
His highlight on the website here under coaching. Coach Wilmot served 1 season as a Lakewood Christian High School varsity boys as head coach. During his lone season, they led the Patriots to their first sectional championship in school history, and the program's second best record, 18-9. 2 of the players went on to play college ball at Anderson University and St. Francis University. That's the
T2s, yeah.
That's the caption. That's
Anderson's
the getter.
3 in Indiana, I think.
Oh wow.
That's the very
Ravens
start of the about Coach Wilmot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Man,
sucks.
I'm going to write this former Fort Wayne Mad Ant a sizable check to coach my child. And he's going to turn it around. And
he did have stints on the Bucks and Knicks, according to this.
Yeah, what is a stint? What?
Yeah, because I'm going to his sports reference page, and it does not link me to NBA statistics.
He played 9 years of professional basketball in the EuroLeague and NBA Developmental League.
Man, he does not even have a Wikipedia page. I ain't giving money to anyone who doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
We've only got 1 year of international stats. He played for Solsonica Rieti in the Italian Serie A in 2008-2009.
You can still join this program.
Averaged 4 points a game in 3 games.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that donations and enrollment numbers are going to drop for the Mont Basketball Academy. All right, who gets the win today?
That's a good story. God, Roderick Wilmot.
I
You
feel
gotta
like
understand, those Indiana teams, that was when I was going to school in the Hoosier State.
Mhm.
I had a lot of friends who were big IU fans.
Oh, I bet.
And so, yeah, that Roderick Wilmot rang a bell that has been unrung in the back of my brain for a very, very long time. Just some guy remembering DJ White.
Oh, I remember DJ White. DJ White could ball. One of the few Indiana Hoosiers I ever liked.
DJ White was a good player.
I liked DJ White a
It's
lot.
the Kelvin Sampson era.
That
of
was
Indiana
Kelvin
basketball.
Sampson. Yeah. Does that get your vote?
That guy stole a boat, man. He stole a boat in his drawers and an ankle monitor and crashed it.
This guy stole tuition money and used it for OnlyFans.
That's foul. That's
Yeah.
there's no doubt.
Spencer, what's your vote?
that one, I think, just because he's a known person.
I'm going to go with the basketball
Somewhat,
team.
yeah.
You can't use money for team travel on OnlyFans, man. Come on. That's going to get my vote.
All
Yeah.
right. I will concede the point. That's wild. I don't know if I could take it if I heard something bad about Lance Stemler or Armand Bassett. I hope I never do.
That is our first winner of the week in What Is Wrong With You. Coming up on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. We'll get to the latest on college basketball and the NBA draft. Possibly some good news for Johnny Furphy, maybe some iffy news for Kevin McCullough. We'll get to that coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Intern Trenton running the board for us, keeping us on air back in the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill. While we're here, by the way, we still have a handful of Prairie Band Sportsbook hats to give away. If you're watching on the YouTube stream right now, you can see them. They are very comfortable. They're the flex fitted hat. So regardless of your head size, they should fit. I put mine on. It's very comfortable. Got that athletic fit to it. We've also got some koozies here. And again, if you come in, you tell us. You just walk over to where we are doing the show. Give us your name. Give us your email address. You will be entered into the hopper for a random drawing for a pair of Royals tickets for Friday's game. Royals taking on the A's, the Oakland A's. Well, for now, the Oakland A's anyway. And it'll be 2014 AL Champions Day at the K. Kelvin Herrera bobblehead day. They're giving away bobbleheads every day this weekend. It is awesome. Every member of HDH has a bobblehead day this weekend.
I am told they will all be there as
cool.
well. The Friday night is the reunion.
Yep.
And it sounds like a lot of the big names from that team have committed to Holland, Herrera, and Davis will all be there. Lorenzo Cain will be there.
Oh, good.
Eric
HDA
Hosmer's going to be there.
Yes.
It was Kelvin Herrera in the 7th. It was
Okay.
Wade Davis in the 8th. It was Greg Holland in the 9th.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Non-Royals fan.
Yeah, we got to catch up on the
Learning
lore.
the lore. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool that they're all going to be there. I assume Haas will probably be there.
Yeah, he'll
What the
be
hell is he
there.
doing? I know.
Podcasting.
Well, yeah, I know he's trying to steal our flow, getting in the podcast.
Yeah, trying to get into
here.
our business.
Yeah, leave the content creation to the dudes who couldn't play professional sports.
Yeah.
Eric. Yeah, I mean, a bunch of those dudes are retired. It's been a decade. A lot of those guys have hung it up.
I think Ned will be there. Ned Yost coming back out.
Got him out from the hunting shed.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know
From
how.
the duck blind. Yeah.
I don't know how they reached him in the blind to tell him, hey, we're doing a thing. Do you want to come? But no, in all seriousness, I'm sure Ned's delighted. He came back last year. They put him in the Hall of Fame, didn't they?
I think you're
Was
right about
last
that.
year?
Yeah.
And he came back out. So,
He leaves the blind once a year.
you get me for one weekend. I'll come back and do baseball stuff. No, Kane will be there. Haas.
I love Lorenzo
I
Cain.
think Escobar will be there. I'll see this Escobar. I think I saw will be there. HDH. I don't know about the rest of them. I don't know. Don't know what Nori Aoki's up to. Don't know if Brandon Finnegan is still trying to make it happen. Who else? Was it Ryan Madsen on that 2014 team, or was he on the 2015 team?
I want to say he was 2014. I can check for you, though. American baseball pitcher Ryan Madsen.
Chris Young is a little busy. He's got a job.
Yeah, he's probably not going to end up making it. I was wrong. Madsen was 2015.
Okay. I don't know what Josh Willingham's availability is.
Wide open. I'm certain of that. Wide open. There's no way Josh Willingham is too busy.
Hey, an important sack fly in that game. Gerard Dyson, another name I think I saw will be there. Gerard Dyson will be in attendance.
Did he officially retire?
I think so. The game might have retired him. We have a text on the Top City Metal Play text line from the 75 asking about Billy Butler. I actually don't know. I have not seen if Billy Butler will be there or not.
Paul on YouTube says Gerard Dyson would be cool to see. Omar Infante, meh. Yeah, I don't know if Omar is gonna show up for this.
So Gerard Dyson I think is retired. He hasn't appeared in a major league game since 2021. So I don't know if he had like an official retirement like day or anything like that, but no, he's in fact the last headline for him is it looked like they charged his brother with murder over something that happened at a dice game in Mississippi.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just terrible, unfortunately.
That's not what you want.
So outside of that, on the bright side again, if you want to be entered to win a pair of tickets to Royals A's on Friday for 2014 AL Champions Day, 100 level, right behind the home dugout, come up to visit us at the Prairie Band Sportsbook.
Gordo and Moose also. They are also expected.
Okay, Gordo should have been obvious.
Per Kansas City Star sports editor Jeff Rosen. So
yes.
I think we've gone through everybody who is for now expected to be there.
Yes. So if you want to be entered into the contest, come over to see us at Prairie Band Sportsbook. We just need your name, email address. We will get you entered with a chance to win the tickets to this weekend's game, Friday, specifically, first part of the weekend. Real quick, just a couple of things, a little potpourri here. We'll get to college hoops in a minute. I did want to give a shout out to Washburn Tennis. This was just confirmed moments ago, but the Washburn men, they have clinched their event today at the MIAA GAC tournament for men's tennis. They knocked off Harding 4-0, and they are headed to the NCAA Division II Men's Tennis National Championships on Saturday this week. The Washburn women's tennis team with a 4-1 win over Missouri Western. They clinched a spot in the NCAA D2 Women's National Championship tournament. So a big shout out, Washburn Tennis. What a year. Both the men and women headed to the NCAA championship tournaments. Awesome for them. Been a heck of a year for Washburn sports. So I want to make sure we gave them a little bit of a shout out while we talk some college sports here. We did have some basketball that we wanted to touch on a little bit. NBA draft combine going on right now. And they're doing the measurements and all that. Johnny Furphy and Kevin McCullough, neither one of them, the KU representatives up in Chicago at the Combine right now, neither one of them is going to scrimmage, both elected not to. And I saw some folks saying, oh no, is this bad? Does this mean Johnny Furphy is going to come back despite all evidence from every credible KU reporter that he's not going to? Does this mean he'll come back? No. If I had to guess, this means that someone told him, don't work out. Don't scrimmage because we're taking you, so don't do it.
Or the teams that are putting together, or the folks at the Combine that are putting together people to scrimmage said, yeah, we want to give other players this spotlight, not necessarily guys that we know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look at the list of guys who aren't scrimmaging, and it's a list of guys who are probably, like, Zach Edey's not scrimmaging.
Yeah.
He's going to get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those. It's a situation where these scrimmages are for players who are trying to make like one last good impression.
Jalen Wilson a year ago, guy who needed those scrimmage games. That makes a little more sense.
Naquan Tomlin is part of the scrimmages.
Yes, in fact, Naquan Tomlin got the call up from the G League Elite Camp to the actual NBA comparison to Jalen Wilson. That's something that happened to him just last year. That's pretty cool for Naquan Tomlin. We knew the dude could play.
Yeah. I would love to see him get an opportunity, whether that's through the draft or through the G League. It was really difficult what he had to go through this past college season, and looks like he's made the most of at least the initial opportunity that he's got.
Man, that is just an all-time what if for K-State basketball. And I know it's beating a dead horse at this point. I know we've been over all of this, but how different does that team look if they have a big man who can stretch it out a little bit, who can score quite a bit season long?
It was the exact piece they were missing. Yeah. It was the exact piece that could have really helped them out. And the players know it too. Like, I think it was Tyler Perry yesterday.
Yes.
Who quote tweeted the highlights of Tomlin at the Combine, said what might have been.
Because you know what? If you have another guy like that, who can create a little bit, who can make shots, who's got size you can rely on. You know who that makes it easier on? A point guard who's not a natural point guard, because that takes a little bit off his plate. K-State, we've talked a lot about KU and what they've had to do in the portal this year in terms of finding creators and finding guys who can take the offensive load off of DeJuan Harris, who we can get the ball to, who can then get a shot for themselves. You know who else didn't really have many creators last year? Kansas State.
Yeah.
Didn't have a whole lot of that. Looks like Arthur Kaluma as well has had a pretty good showing so far this week.
Yeah, it didn't get into one of the scrimmages, at least the Tuesday scrimmages, but it looked like he made a good accounting for himself.
I thought he wasn't invited.
No, he went to the
G League camp.
Oh, the G League.
G League camp, yeah. Yeah, no, it looked like he was shooting it well. Speaking of shooting, Johnny Furphy made a bunch of threes in a row, apparently, when they were doing the stationary shooting drills. I have to imagine he will be doing he's a good slasher. He's a good athlete. Mm-hmm. I imagine, especially early in his career, he will be asked to do even less than Grady Dick was. And it's just, Johnny, go stand in the corner. Go stand in the corner. If the baseline's open, drive. Otherwise, you're standing and shooting. And that's all you're going to do.
Yeah, he's such a good cutter. I think, like, I don't know how much room he's got to, like, fill out, get stronger, get to be a better defensive player. But, like, you watch Christian Brown as a guy coming off the bench in the league right now for Denver. Like, obviously, it's an irresistible comparison because they kind of look alike, and they both went to KU. Mm-hmm. But I think he can be that kind of player right away for a good team because he is, I think, a really good cutter. Like, I think he's got off the ball ability and some natural basketball sense that will enable him in the right system, I think, to be reasonably productive right away. And yeah, if he can be a knockdown guy, if you leave him alone in the corner, wings with size that shoot 40% from three will always have a home somewhere in the league. There will always be somewhere for a guy like that to play.
One other college basketball note here. Jeff Borzello from ESPN, earlier today, he posted his way too early college basketball top 25. Number one in the nation in his preseason top 25, the Kansas Jayhawks. They are one of 4 Big 12 teams in the top 5. And if Brett Yormark had his way, it would be all 5 because he's got Gonzaga number 3 as well. The only thing I have that I would refute that Jeff Borzello has here, he's got Zeke Mayo starting for KU. I think Zeke's coming off the bench. I think he's your 6th man. I think Bill Self is going to want him to come in, be able to take over backup point guard minutes from DeJuan Harris, be able to play the one a little bit, be the energy scoring guy off it.
Sort of like what Remy Martin ended up as.
Exactly what I was thinking, that he might have an argument for being one of your 5 best players, but it's just like Remy Martin in the NCAA tournament, in the Big 12 tournament back in 2022. But you like the lineup, you like the defense, you like the chemistry of that first 5. You want that guy to bring energy. He'll play 25 plus minutes. He might be one of your 5 best players. He might finish games, but you want that guy coming off the bench. I think Rylan Griffin starts for KU. I think he's your starting 2 guard.
I do too. For the record, by the way, that top 5 from Jeff Borzella of ESPN: KU number 1, Houston number 2, Gonzaga number 3, Baylor number 4, Iowa State number 5.
Am I a hater for saying I think that's too rich for Houston?
No, I think that,
like, I feel like that's not quite,
like, they got to replace their heart and soul in Jamal Shed, and Milos Uzan is, I think, a good player, but he's not Jamal Shed.
No, Milos Uzan never, to me, at OU made me think, this dude, he can go.
They do get Terrence Arsenault back, and the big kid Tugler will be back after they both missed the postseason. Arsenault basically missed the whole season due to injury, so they'll be deep and they'll be tough, and they'll be really good. Maybe number 2 a little too high. Like, I think Alabama's kind of underrated in these rankings.
I agree with you on that.
But no, I would have Houston in my top 5. I don't know, maybe 2's a little high, but I would have them in my top 5.
You like them more than Baylor?
Yes.
Is that more liking Houston or disliking something about Baylor? I kind of like Baylor. I think, I don't like Baylor
Baylor's
one
got
bit,
a lot of guys, but the last 2 years they don't guard. Like, I don't know what Baylor's identity is anymore. Like, Baylor had an identity, and I think the last 2 years they really haven't.
It's interesting you say 2 years. Was there a member of that staff who loves defense who left 2 years ago, possibly?
They've had a little bit of turnover on that coaching staff as it happens.
Yeah, a lot of it. I know that it's something that K-State fans really like to glom onto and say, like, yeah, that guy's ours now, but there is a very stark difference in how Baylor defended when Jerome Tang was on staff versus when he was not on staff anymore. Because you're right. I mean, that was Baylor in a lot of ways was a lot like KU in sort of their mentality, not in terms of the type of players. Baylor has had dudes who are 6'10" and long for forever, but just in terms of they want to be defense first, have defense lead to the transition game, lead to their offense. Last 2 years, it's just been, we're going to bludgeon you to death with scoring, which is not really what we know Scott Drew for, but that's what they've been. So just a little glimpse into what's going on at the NBA Draft Combine and some early college basketball look-aheads for next year. Obviously, some guys still being sought through the portal, especially for K-State. And for KU, we'll talk Jayhawks tomorrow with Michael Swain, and we'll talk some more K-State basketball coming up later in the week. Not Wednesday. We don't have a show Wednesday, but later in the week when Tim Fitzgerald joins us for the Wildcat wrap-up. We've got 1 hour left today on 580 Sports Talk. We are live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. We will be here for the full rest of the show. We would love for you to come up and visit us. You don't even have to place a bet for our contest today. All you have to do is come up, see us here at the Sportsbook, say, I want to be entered for those Royals tickets. We will put you in the hopper. We just need your name, email address. Boom, you will be entered to win those 2 tickets for Friday's game. We've got hats to give away, Prairie Band Sportsbook koozies as well. All sorts of cool promotions here at the Sportsbook for you to learn about as well. Again, at Prairie Band Sportsbook here in Mayetta. We've got 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. now it is the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Monday, May 13th. I'm Brendan Dworzinski alongside Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. If you are in the capital city, it's just about 20 minutes north. Jump on 75 Highway, head north, get off on 150th Road. You cannot miss Prairie Band. Come swing by, have some fun with us. We've got plenty of giveaways. We got Prairie Band Sportsbook hats. We've got koozies. You've got a chance to enter to win a pair of Royals tickets for Friday's game as well. All you have to do for that is come give us your name. We need a name, we need an email address, and you will be entered to win a pair of tickets. Lower level seating, 100 level seating behind the Royals dugout for Friday's game. So come hang out with us. And maybe you'll get a chance to win a pair of Royals tickets for this weekend. AL Championship 2014 ceremony day on Friday, by the way. Here in this final hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines in just a moment. We will also get to Chiefs-Ravens. That will be the game that opens the NFL season this year. Is that the right call? Do we like that matchup? We'll touch on that in a little bit. And we will get you ready for Royals baseball tonight, continuing their stretch of games against the American League West, taking on the Seattle Mariners. And they get to play two of the most fun and exciting young pitchers in the American League in the next two nights, George Kirby and Logan Gilbert. Love those dudes. They are awesome.
George Kirby throws a lot of strikes, so he is a pleasure to watch for that reason and that reason alone. That dude peppers the strike zone.
He is my go-to starter. I don't remember which card it is, but he is my go-to starter in last year's MLB The Show game. He is number one for me. Or it's the Kerry Wood card that just strikes at everybody, because how am I going to pass up a card from when Kerry Wood struck out 20 guys in one single game? So we'll get to all that coming up this hour. We would also love to hear from you. You can either jump in on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That number, as always, 785-272-9429. Or you can join us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to us yet, it would mean the world if you would do so. Just head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, hit that subscribe button, and then you can hang out with us, watch along with the show, hang out in the comment section all day long. The video stream can also be found on our website, 580wibw.com, on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. So with that, and without any further ado, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's get to some of the NFL contract news and personnel news over the last couple of days. First, from today, the Chiefs have re-signed linebacker Cole Christensen. Spencer had that headline the other day that they had pulled his free agency tender. They have now just re-signed him to a contract to the team. Matt Dickerson has been released, the defensive lineman. He's a vested vet, so he doesn't go on waivers. He is just headed directly to free agency.
So they bring him back. I wanted to make this point.
Mhm.
When we were on the show Friday with Matt Derrick, do you remember what he said when I asked him about what people that stood out to him?
Yeah.
He said, I want to talk about the defensive line right now, Fabian Lovett.
Yeah.
And so they're cutting a guy on the interior that's ahead of him on the depth chart. So
Interesting.
maybe that means they really like Fabian Lovett.
It could. I mean, hey, that'd be great news if we've got a guy who's under contract for a couple of years who they can keep in that position group. Matt Derrick, he's on top of everything.
Yeah.
That's why he's the best in the biz. So that's your minor Chiefs news from today. Earlier, we obviously had the news about Jared Goff becoming the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, $53 million per year, $170 million fully guaranteed over the next 4 years for the Detroit Lions starting quarterback. Other historic contract news today. Buccaneers safety Antoine Winfield is now the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. He has agreed to a 4-year, $84.1 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the first time ever that the highest paid defensive back in the league is a safety. It has always been corners before. It is now a safety. The thing about Antoine Winfield is he's awesome. He is a phenomenal football player, and I am very sad he did not hit the open market this year. I would have given anything to get him on my favorite team because he's a stud, and I think he might be the best safety in the league. He's at least in the conversation, and now he's getting paid like it. So a big-time deal for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The other news from over the weekend, the Los Angeles Chargers, they have depth. for the first time ever, they actually got depth on their roster. They have signed Bud Dupree, the longtime edge rusher. 53 career sacks for Dupree. Had a couple of good seasons between Tennessee and Pittsburgh, especially in Pittsburgh early in TJ Watt's career. That was a really nasty duo, the two of them. Pittsburgh always has pass rushers. He's been banged up a lot the last couple of years in Tennessee. He is headed to the Chargers. 1 year, 2 years actually. I think one is an option year, but $6 million. That's a cheap deal. This is, and I'm going to give the Chargers credit because Tom Telesco is no longer there in their front office. He's now ruining the Raiders. With the money just that they saved from restructuring Joey Bosa's contract, they were able to afford Bud Dupree. This is a smart move, an actually smart front office move by the Los Angeles Chargers. They actually have a playable depth piece now. I almost can't believe it. If I didn't have proof that it was happening, I would not be able to believe it.
I was not aware that was how they get down, signing depth pieces. That's very anti-Chargers.
No, I mean, it's smart. And look, Jim Harbaugh could have gone to any team he wanted. He was not going to go to a team that he didn't think had their ducks in a row, especially after how things ended for him in San Francisco. So I'm not surprised that Joe Horitz, the new GM for the Chargers, probably at the behest of his new head coach, Jim Harbaugh, sort of knows what he's doing. At least a little bit knows what he's doing. But that's your big NFL personnel news over the last couple of days.
First in line for me, it is a major championship week in professional golf. The PGA Championship goes to Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky for the first time since 2014. Rory McIlroy won there in 2014. It's the last time Rory's won a major. He's coming off a win in this past weekend's Wells Fargo Championship in Charlotte. But the story and the favorite is Scotty Scheffler. And the story was, would Scotty make it to Valhalla? Remember, famously at the Masters, he was waiting on his first child with his wife. And if his wife went into labor, he was going to take the phone call and get out of Dodge and go be with his wife for the birth of their first child. Well,
good for him.
That didn't happen during the Masters, but it did happen this past week. So Scotty skipped the Wells Fargo, but he is in Louisville. His wife gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Bennett on May 8th. And now Scotty Scheffler, who is the betting favorite to win his second major this year in the third of his career, and the overwhelming betting favorite, in fact, will be playing this weekend at Valhalla. One of the first players to see Scotty Scheffler on the practice green today in Louisville was John Rahm, who himself is a father of two. And the first thing he said to Scotty Scheffler was, "Have you had much sleep?"
Good question.
So it is an open question how that will affect the play of Scheffler, but he is still overwhelmingly, in fact, here at the Prairie Band Sportsbook, the odds for Scheffler to win the PGA are plus 350. The next best odds, Rory McIlroy, plus 1,100. That is how much of a favorite that Scotty Scheffler is on the field at Valhalla.
I mean, how do you bet against him? I understand the sleep thing. It's Monday. They start Thursday. He's got his practice round, Wednesday? Yeah, he'll be fine.
So in his last 5 tournaments, he has won 4 of them, and the one he did not win, he finished in a second-place tie. He's playing better golf than any other male golfer in the world as they enter major week number 2.
I mean, this is peak Tiger stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Nobody, there hasn't really been a run of individual success like this since Tiger Woods. Speaking of, Tiger is in Louisville. He's going to tee it up at a place where he previously won a major, beat Bob May in a playoff back in 2000 for a PGA championship. 125-1 if you wanted to bet on Tiger Woods.
Don't.
To win the PGA here at Prairie Band Sports.
I'm going to tell you right now, don't do that. Do not do that. I am 100% in favor of anyone coming up here, putting down a little action on someone to win the PGA here at Prairie Band. Do not put it on Tiger Woods. Do not do that.
So
that's not smart.
We will see if new dad energy or daddy power, perhaps you have heard it referred to in other sports. We will see if it is a real thing. With Scotty Scheffler this weekend at Valhalla. It's going to be a great tournament. Rory comes in hot, having just won. Scheffler's red hot. Brooks Koepka won on the Live Tour a couple of weeks ago. He won the PGA last year. It's a great field of a bunch of dudes who are playing really well. So should be an exciting weekend.
Spencer, what's your first headline for today?
In a stunner.
We have updated odds,
Whoa,
actually.
okay.
I'm sorry to cut you off. We got updated odds from the folks at Prairie Band Sportsbook. Scotty now plus 450 and Rory at plus 750, giving his win. So the odds have moved a little bit.
The lines have moved.
Thank you to our fine friends here at Prairie Band for helping us out with that.
Go
All
ahead. I'm sorry to have cut you off.
In a stunner, the Hawks win the NBA draft lottery. They were given a 3% chance to pick number 1 overall. They win the draft lottery in first time in history, but it happens to be like the worst draft in history as well.
Yeah. So this is the first time in 50 years they've had the number 1 pick, which means it's the first time in the lottery era that they have gotten the first pick. I was joking about how cruel it was going to be for my favorite team, the Chicago Bulls, to win the lottery in the year when the draft is this bad. But frankly, they finished 11th. So the distance between first and 5th, first and 10th, 11th, 14th, it's the smallest the margin I think has ever been. And Alex Sarr, the Frenchman who's been playing in Australia, I believe, he's probably going number 1 overall, but no one knows anything about him. Like some of the big international guys, everybody who follows basketball knew about Victor Wembanyama last year. People had known about Luka Doncic for a long time. He should have gone number 1 overall. That was the DeAndre Ayton draft. People know about the big name. No one knows about Alex Sarr. No one except the freaks know about Alex Sarr.
I've never seen a highlight. Like, I don't know what it looks like when he plays basketball.
No. If I told you, what do you know about Zachary Risache, you would say, oh, yeah, he was my waiter when I went to Shea Yazoo the other night. Like that, no one has any idea who these dudes are. No one.
The Wizards get the 2nd overall pick.
Zachary Risache, get ready to learn the National Mall, buddy.
I saw a tweet yesterday that said if the Wizards can select some random European guy and he's not Jan Vesely, the Wizards will be in a good place.
Yeah, I know Detroit and Detroit's fans were super mad because they had the worst record and they ended up with the 5th pick. I think I've shared this before. Lotteries are dumb. The worst team should get the first pick. And
flip side, why should you be rewarded for consistently being terrible?
It's only a reward if you're well run.
Right.
Maybe you're not well run, like the Pistons.
Right. So maybe teams that are accidentally bad deserve a chance to move up and actually win the lottery and do something good with the number 1 pick, like the Spurs did when they drafted Tim Duncan.
Okay, counterpoint. Since Tim Duncan was drafted in 1996, how many of these teams that are drafting in the top 5 were accidentally bad? Atlanta got lucky. They only had the 3% chance of getting there. Washington was not accidentally bad. The Wizards, Spencer, I apologize.
That is a state of mind for the Washington Wizards.
I'm not sure they would have beaten Highland Park in a game this year. Like, that team was an embarrassment. Jordan Poole would not have outshot a single player for Highland Park, to tell you that much. Like, Houston, very bad. Intentionally very bad. They got that pick via Brooklyn. Also, very bad. Got rid of all their players. Knew they were going to be bad. They've gotten rid of all their picks for forever. San Antonio, back-to-back years, has intentionally tanked. Did you watch a Spurs game this year? This isn't an attack question. Like, have you watched a Spurs game this year?
Yeah.
We could have started. We all could have played on the perimeter around Wemby and would have been just as good as the dudes the Spurs were starting. Like, they intentionally said, we're not putting anything around Wemby. He's going to develop. All you guys are going to get cut and released and walk in free agency anyway. We're going to build up a new team. Like, that should not... I don't know. I don't like the lottery. I think it induces more teams to tank. I think it gives more teams an opportunity to say, oh, well, we've got a chance to be number 1. We should be really bad. We should try to get the most ping pong balls. That irks me. But maybe I'm in the minority. I know it gets to be a whole TV thing, although it tells you just how little people think of this draft that they put the lottery this year on in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday.
Tired. Get rid of the lottery. Wired. Get rid of the draft.
That is a take that I have heard more and more over the years. That, I mean, if you want to follow the most capitalist form of sports possible, when you earn your, eligibility to go to your professional level, everybody should be a free agent.
Yes, you should get to pick where you want to play.
But you should also then get rid of salary caps and luxury taxes and all of that as well, which I don't think the NFL or NBA is going to give up anytime
Probably not. Probably not.
Little tidbit, though. This is the highest the Wizards have picked in 14 years. Do you know who they picked 14 years ago?
2010.
Bradley Beal?
No.
John Wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Beal only looked that old.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could mean that, like, they're
John Wall
better
was
spot
awesome.
for the future.
Yeah. John Wall ruled.
He did.
I loved John Wall.
I remember the whole craze of John Wall.
Yeah. His own dance, man. It was awesome.
He was also a high school friends and childhood friends with K-State alum Brandon Banks.
Yes. Bradley Beal, another connection locally, wanted to go to KU, and then his mom said no. Or no, that's what it was. It was reversed. His mom wanted him to go to KU because he was from St. Louis, and he said, nah, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So he went to Florida instead. Next headline for me, just a quick one here from Major League Baseball. It is now official. Dan, you reported this. Please credit Dan Lucero from last week, I believe it was, maybe 2 weeks ago now. MLB's Sunday morning package going to Roku, the company that makes the little boxes you can hook up to your TV. Sometimes it's just built into your TV. I think TCL, they're all Roku TVs. They now have the deal. So the Roku app, the Roku channel, it is a free thing you can get. And they've got the new MLB Sunday morning package. This past year, it was on Peacock. And now, I think, what is it, 11:30 first pitch for those games?
Yeah. So,
11 o'clock maybe? It's
think
early.
Central time, I think. Is right.
Central time. Yeah, 11 o'clock Central time. It's breakfast in baseball. And yes, that deal is going to the Roku channel. So you can still watch it for free. You don't even need to have a subscription to anything like you did for Peacock. I get the appeal of it. You can start watching your baseball right away. Then you get baseball truly all day on Sundays. You get the early first pitch, then a few innings into that. Your regular daytime first pitches go on the East Coast and Central time. Then you get your West Coast starts in the afternoon, then Sunday night baseball. I thought the broadcasts really stunk. They took me out of those games a little bit.
Who's going to produce these broadcasts?
MLB Productions, I would imagine.
I would
don't
think
Roku has a sports arm. I think it'll be MLB Productions. Jason Benetti did the play-by-play for the Peacock games, and he's excellent, but now has some more high-priority responsibilities, so I don't believe it would be him. They experimented with having two different color analysts who were affiliated with the teams in question. So, like, if it had been...
I feel like they've done that for something else before.
Now, they did it for the Peacock games, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it really, really didn't work. And then they did some other gimmicky stuff, too. There was one game where they had no play-by-play.
I remember that. That was weird.
Yeah, they just had a roving reporter doing some interviews, and then just kind of let the sounds of the game breathe. So, like, I'm all for trying new things, and I'm all for trying to make it easier to, like, you don't have to subscribe to Roku. You can literally just download the Roku app, and it will be there. If you have a Roku, it will be there. You can download the Roku app if you have a Fire Stick, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I believe you can.
So it'll just be there. It's a free baseball game, and free is good.
As long as you have the internet, which, frankly, with how much we have complained about how inaccessible baseball has been, that's a good thing.
Yes.
It's maybe not the easiest place to get to, but it's not hard if you have someone who can help you out either.
All right. We don't have access to the sounding board for it this time, so you guys want to make some whip sounds? Thanks, guys. Just like home. It's the playoff roundup.
Hold on. It's time for the playoff roundup.
All right. A little DIY. It is. It's time for the playoff roundup here on 580 Sports Talk, everybody's favorite segment within a segment this time of year. We'll start on ice. Last night, the Florida Panthers pushed the Boston Bruins to the brink. Alexander Barkov, the game winner late in the third, a 3-2 Game 4 win. Florida leading Boston 3-1. Out west, the Vancouver Canucks held off the Edmonton Oilers 4-3. 2 goals for Brock Besser in that one. The Canucks have a 2-1 series lead in that Western Conference Pacific Division semifinal. Tonight, the New York Rangers can close out the Canes at the Garden. Game 5 of that series. Carolina was able to stave off elimination with a Game 4 win. Game 5 tonight in NYC. And the Colorado Avalanche look to rebound at home and tie their series with Dallas after the Stars beat the Avs 4-1 in Game 3 in the Mile High City. Game 4 is tonight. In the NBA last night or yesterday afternoon, it was the Indiana Pacers pummeling the New York Knicks 121-89. That series now even at 2 games apiece. The home team has yet to lose in that series. It is quite the opposite in the Western Conference semifinal. The defending champs are back from the dead. Nikola Jokic, 35 points. Aaron Gordon, 27 more. And the Denver Nuggets defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves 115-107 in Minnesota. That series all square at 2 games apiece. And again, the road team has won all 4 games of that series. Tonight, the Celtics and the Cavaliers tip off in about 30 minutes or so. No Donovan Mitchell for the Cavaliers. I do not know how they will put the ball in the basket without him, frankly. He has been virtually all of their offense in a series that Boston leads 2-1. Game 4 tonight in Cleveland. Also game 4 in Dallas between the Thunder and the Mavericks. Dallas has taken a 2-1 series lead, even despite a limited Luka Doncic due to injury. That's because Kyrie Irving is playing great. PJ Washington thinks he's Klay Thompson all of a sudden. So the Dallas Mavericks up 2-1 on the number 1 seed Thunder with game 4 in Dallas late tonight.
So the opening line for Celtics Cavs today was 8.5 favoring Boston on the road. It's down to 11.5 with Donovan Mitchell out here at Prairie Band. I can't imagine picking the Cavs in this game against the spread, money line, anything. The money line is Boston minus 590. So to win $100, you'd have to put down $590. You got $590 liquid?
No.
Me either.
Not on me.
No, not on my person now. Denver's winning it all. I'm sure you don't want to jinx yourself thinking that. I'll tell you that right now. Denver's better than Boston. I'm pretty confident in that. I know Boston's playing really well. I think Denver's got a better roster. I think Mike Malone is a heck of a coach. And if they get the kind of contributions they got from their bench guys yesterday, they're a better team than Boston. And I think they're going to beat them in the NBA Finals. And I think they might win the next 2 against Minnesota.
I think there may be some twists in the tail still left in that series between Denver and Minnesota. I'm sure Minnesota will respond much in the same way Denver did. But it also seems clear that Denver has figured out Minnesota defensively. And in particular, Nikola Jokic has figured out Minnesota defensively. And if Minnesota doesn't get any offense from somebody who isn't Anthony Edwards, and a lot of offense, they need a big night from Karl Anthony Towns. They need a big night from Naz Reid. They got that in game 1. They got that in game 2. They did not get that in games 3 or 4 at home. Now they're going to be tight. Now they might unravel. They're the young team. They've never been here before. Denver, it's 2-2 with game 5 at home. They were here in the semifinals last year and got it done against Phoenix. So it does feel good for the Nuggets, provided that Jamal Murray is able to be what he was in games 3 and 4 and not compromised by injury as he looked to be in games 1 and 2. Speaking of that injury, the calf strain, it's the same injury that Donovan Mitchell has. It's a tough injury. And Mitchell's not going to be able to play through it tonight for Cleveland, which is a bummer. That I would have expected Boston to win anyway, but certainly if Donovan Mitchell is out of the picture, Boston will have no problem. Even though they tend to go bozo mode at times, I don't think they're going to have any problem with the Cavaliers. The Thunder Maverick series is interesting because I don't think it matters who wins that series because they're not beating whoever wins the Minnesota-Denver series.
Probably not, unless Dallas wins it in 5. This Nuggets series goes 7 and everybody's super fatigued. I mean, that's the avenue, I guess. I don't think that'll happen, but that's, I think, the only path it would matter with.
It would be for Jokic going from having to play against Anthony Davis and having to play then against Rudy Gobert and a bunch of other big guys from Minnesota to playing against either Chet Holmgren or Derek Lively. That is like going from all Madden to easy mode.
That does it for the playoff roundup and for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back on the other side of the break, we know who the Chiefs will open the NFL season against. We'll talk about it next here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon. Trenton Craxner back in the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill. Day one of the summer internship for our guy Trenton. We'll get to know him a little bit more coming up on the show tomorrow afternoon from 2 until 6. Michael Swain is going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll talk some KU football and basketball. Also got more Chiefs to get to, plenty of Royals baseball as well. That's coming up tomorrow from 2 until 6 right here on 580 Sports Talk. We did find out earlier the first game of the NFL season. It always belongs to the reigning Super Bowl champions. Aside from that 1 year where it was Bears-Packers, I believe, they had the oldest rivalry in the NFL because it was the 100th season of NFL football. And it wasn't a great game, if I remember correctly. First game of the Matt LaFleur era. Anyway, that's for me, not really for anyone else. But we do know, opening game this season, Thursday Night Football. It'll be a 7:25 p.m. kickoff on NBC. The Kansas City Chiefs will take on the Baltimore Ravens. That is your season opener. And my first thought was that I would rather have that game saved for October, November, December, January, week 17. Like that feels to me like a game that should have a little bit more weight to it than being played in week 1. But then again, by the same token, when you're the Chiefs, you pretty much only play marquee games. And I mean,
you're everybody's marquee game.
Right. And you've got a bunch of other games that are going to be in prime time. You've got a bunch of other games that are going to be in exclusive windows. So if you burn one of those games against another AFC contender week 1, it's probably not the biggest deal in the world. And it'll be fun. That's a great matchup for week 1.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's as tantalizing a matchup as you could put at the start of the season. I agree with you, though. Like, I expect both of those teams to be AFC contenders again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to have seen it later in the season as like kind of a litmus test type of game. Like, not like, okay, where do they stack up in week 1? No, where do they stack up when they've dealt with adversity? Where do they stack up when they've had some injuries? Where do they stack up in November, December when the weather gets a little colder and it gets a little harder to play? Like, that's when I would have liked to have seen it a little bit more. I'm with you. But I'm not surprised the league said, okay, Mahomes and Lamar, AFC Championship rematch. They were in Baltimore last year, so Baltimore wants to win in Kansas City as revenge. Like, there are a lot of elements to it that make it really, really attractive.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to change my opinion again. I'm going to re-flip-flop on this. We knew this was going to be a Chief home game, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not a road game.
This is what I was talking about last week, right?
Yeah. Aside from that one time when Baltimore, or was it? No, Denver had to play on the road, right? After they won the Super Bowl?
Yes, Denver had to. No, it was Baltimore. Baltimore had to play on the road because there was an Orioles game.
And they went to Denver. That was Manning's 7 touchdown game.
Yes, correct.
Yes, okay, that's the details. Your home games this year for the Chiefs, it's your divisional games, Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Saints, Buccaneers. Yeah, put another one of those teams week 1.
I think the Texans would have been cool. I know they've done that before. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was the season opener. What, after the Chiefs' first title?
That was the 2020.
Yeah,
season
the empty
opener.
stadium, the COVID year. Do that one again, because that would be a more intriguing, I think, early season. Okay, the Texans have gotten all this hype. Let's see what it's really about.
Is it for real?
Yeah.
I mean,
early chance for a young up and coming team to make a statement.
I would have wanted that, but I did think it was going to be the rematch of the AFC Championship game just because it holds something.
It's something you can put on the marquee. It's something you can sell and say,
Like,
hey, we're
we're opening up Thursday night with a rematch of the AFC Championship.
I like the idea when I think it was either or last week, Spencer, when you brought this up. And I kind of like the idea of having it be a Charger game because you're going to get plenty of attention. I know those two teams have played season openers or first 2 weeks of the season games a lot in recent years. I would have liked to have seen that matchup, though. I think you get plenty of fun storylines. You get Mahomes versus Herbert, which is always fun. Chiefs are defending champions. You get the first Jim Harbaugh game back in the NFL. I would have been excited by that. By the way, your other games that have already been announced for week 1, exactly one of them so far. This has just been reported. Week 1, Cowboys-Browns. That is the first game of
Game of the week.
Yep, that'll be America's Game of the Week, and it'll be Tom Brady's first game in the booth for Fox. First regular season game in the booth for Fox, anyway.
Did you guys see what ESPN's John, I think it's Weinfuss?
Weinfuss.
Did you see what he's reporting about the new Christmas game?
No, I did not see this.
So they're going to the teams that participate on Christmas, which is going to be 4 teams, 2 games.
2 games.
They will play the Saturday prior, the 21st, which I believe NBC got the rights to.
Yes.
And the expectation is the 4 teams, they'll play on that Saturday, and they'll be all from the same division.
Interesting. So okay. So to add even more to potentially, Dan, your disdain for the Christmas Day games, not only is it 2 games on Christmas Day in the middle of the week, 2 games that have a whole lot of meaning in the middle of the week on Christmas Day.
It's great. Love it. Awesome. Thrilled. So here's a question for you. So last season, these were the primetime games for the Chiefs.
Okay.
They had the opener Thursday night at home against Detroit. They had Sunday night at the Jets, which was supposed to be Mahomes-Rodgers, and we know how that turned out.
The cursed matchup we will never get.
Thursday night at home against Denver. I guess instead of primetime exclusive window games, they had the Europe game against Miami.
Yep.
They have Monday Night Football at home against Philadelphia. They had Sunday Night Football at Green Bay. I don't think that was flexed. I think that was originally scheduled.
I think you are correct.
And then they did have a Monday night game that did get flexed, right? Because the Patriot
game
was supposed to be Monday night at New England, and that got flexed out of Monday night.
Yes, it was the first time they had flexed a Monday game. That was the first time they had ever taken Patrick Mahomes out of primetime.
So if you assume that the Chiefs are once again going to get 6 primetime games, because that is the limit.
Yeah.
You can play 7 if you get flexed in late in the year, but you can't play more than 6 on your schedule. And we assume that the Ravens are 1. What are the other primetime games on this schedule?
Oh, good question. All right, so one of them, there will be a divisional game.
Yeah.
At least one divisional.
Probably like a Thursday night, maybe against the Raiders or the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for it because they've played the Broncos on Thursday night before. The Jamal Charles can't stop fumbling game was also a Thursday. And last year, yeah. Wasn't the game Mahomes got injured a Thursday night as well?
Yes, it was.
That's what I thought. Frank Clark's coming out party because he single-handedly ended the career of Joe Flacco.
Reggie Ragland had a pick 6, I believe.
Tells you all you need to know about the modern Broncos. So I would say you probably get 2 of those divisional games in prime time. I think you're putting the 49ers in prime time.
I think Monday Night Football would love to get that one. They had the Super Bowl rematch last year. They'd love to get the Super Bowl rematch again.
Yeah.
They really promoted the heck out of that game. But yeah, that feels pretty obvious.
So that'd be 4 for me. I think the Bills game is going to be afternoon CBS. I think that will be one of those. I think, that'll be the game that they block, that they don't allow to be given up.
That one in Buffalo or the Bengals in Kansas City?
I think, honestly, like Bengals at Chiefs screams Monday Night Football to me. Like that feels like a Monday Night Football game to me. I'm basing that entirely on nothing but vibe. All vibe right there. Bills Chiefs has been the moneymaker for CBS for a few years now. Tony Romo and Jim Nantz did something like 12 Chiefs or Bills games last year.
Yeah, it just felt like every week
they
were the guys that were on the call.
They're going to buy a condo in like Prairie Village.
They should let them use Clark Hunt's apartment.
Yes.
That's attached to Arrowhead.
Yes.
So 2 divisional games, Ravens, Niners, Bengals. And I think you're going to get Chiefs Texans Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that as an early season Sunday night game.
Like first weekend of October.
Yeah, like week 4 or 5.
Yeah. That's what I would go with. I think that'll be the group. Don't put the Saints in prime time. Please, for the love of God, don't do that.
Don't give me Chiefs Falcons on Monday Night Football. It'd be revolting.
The counterpoint to this is you try to buoy your viewership on Thursday night and you put like Chiefs at Panthers on Thursday Night Football. Because even though that game will be hideous, people are going to tune in to watch Patrick Mahomes.
That would be a NFL scheduling Thursday night scheduling.
That would
be something that's on par for what they schedule.
That would be Al Michaels just openly refusing to travel to call that game.
It's a bad game, guys. It's not a great game.
Al Michaels openly talking about the various prop bets he placed on Kansas City Chiefs for the game. Kirk desperately trying to stay focused and keep it between the lines. Like, well, Al, I thought that was a really impressive look by Bryce Young, rolled out, and Al's just, I had him under 180 yards, please. So that is the early glimpse. I am sure tomorrow we will get plenty more games. They get leaked out, probably a few more Wednesday morning.
A bunch leaked out.
There's
a Twitter account for schedule leaking.
I guess I shouldn't say leaked. I should say like the games that come out early that are confirmed.
I believe
the Good Morning America game. Yeah,
I believe Good Morning Football is coming back Wednesday morning for a special, and they're going to debut when the international games.
Okay, all right,
I think I read
that kind of thing. Yeah, that makes quite a bit more sense. So yeah, we'll keep you updated on that coming up on tomorrow's show. We have to get to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll look ahead to tonight's season opener. Royals have a couple of series. Did I say season?
Yes,
series opener. I was going to say it's Friday. It's not. It's Monday, but we can pretend it's Friday. It's
Monday,
Friday somewhere.
That's why.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We'll be back. We'll preview series opener, Royals and Mariners right after this here on 580 Sports Talk. Comments I want to get to here on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube stream from Christopher. Says the NFL has everybody by the tails so badly they could have scheduled Panthers Chargers opening night and still had more viewers than anybody else. I'm thinking they put crack in our TVs. It is baseball is the national pastime. Football is the national obsession, along with celebrity worship, but that's a different story for a different program. Also, Paul on YouTube says, can we bring back Chiefs at noon? Find someone else to fill the 325 window. I miss my Sunday afternoon nap.
You know, that's real. I kind of like the noon games.
Yeah,
I miss the noon games.
Yep.
Doesn't always have to be at 325.
325 or primetime. It is Chiefs o'clock. And unfortunately, as long as the Chiefs keep winning and keep having Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, I don't think that's going to change anytime
They
soon.
only get like 2 or 3 noon kickoffs last year. It was wild.
Yeah, I think it was 2 before the Patriot game, which got moved a whole day earlier. That's crazy.
Well, that's because they were in prime
how-
time or with Jim and
That's
Tony.
how bad Mac Jones was at football.
Yeah. Did Mac Jones even start that game, or was that a Zap Man game?
No, it was a Zappy game.
I thought
You're
that
right.
Was,
Yeah,
I thought that was old Zaps.
That was the Zapster.
I'm the Zap Man. All right, Royals baseball tonight. You'll be able to hear the action right here on 580 WIBW. Pregame begins at 8 o'clock. Late first pitch again, because the Royals are still on the West Coast, taking on all the AL West teams this week. It was Angels this weekend, Mariners to start this week, including tonight. Got the A's at the end of the week for that weekend series, HDH bobblehead weekend. Fun test for the Royals and the offense the next couple of days against 2 pitchers that I frankly think the world of in George Kirby, who will go tonight, Logan Gilbert, who will go tomorrow. Those are your first 2 starters for the Mariners. I think it's Brian Wu, who goes on Wednesday in the series finale for Seattle. They have some issues with their offense. Not the world's greatest bullpen. Their starting pitching, though, is awesome, specifically led by these 2 dudes. I'm kind of fun to see how the Royals are able to diagnose some of the problems that come with facing George Kirby, who, like you were talking about earlier, Dan, peppers the strike zone like very few other pitchers in baseball, and Logan Gilbert, whose stuff is just electrifying.
Yeah, you better strap it up against this pitching staff. 4th in the American League in ERA. They've given up the fewest hits and the 2nd fewest walks. They are a little bit homer prone. They're in the middle of the American League when it comes to giving up the long ball, but they are also 3rd in strikeouts in the league. This is a really, really good pitching staff. Runs are going to be hard to come by, so that means the offense has to strap it up, and the Royals pitchers have better come ready too. And it's the back third or the back 60% of the Royals rotation scheduled with Singer, Waka, and Marsh. We'll see how good those guys are in a spot where they have to be good. So it is. This is a good challenge. There's a first-place team the Royals are playing. It's a team with postseason aspirations. I expect some good baseball this week. And, again, really good test for the Royals. But an opportunity, too. They just need to win one to have had a winning homestand or winning road trip. And I know you're not going to be satisfied with just one if you're the Royals. But if they can get out of Seattle having had having had a winning road trip, I think you feel really good about that.
Real quick, and Spencer, I know you have something that you wanted to add to this too. Seattle is leading the AL West. I think the Royals can take at least one from this Seattle team. I know Kirby is awesome. I know Gilbert is awesome. Wu can go. Christopher on YouTube is excited that they won't have to face Luis Castillo, who is also really good in that rotation. They have an incredible rotation. I don't think this is an impervious Seattle team by any means. I'm pretty confident the Royals can get at least one.
What I was going to say is I'm going to see the Mariners in a couple weeks.
Is that who's playing the Nats when you're over there?
So you're saying I should be prepared for the Nats striking out a lot.
I would expect a lower scoring game in my personal estimation. They're fun. Like, they are really fun to watch. Again, Gilbert's got awesome stuff, and Kirby just, like Dan used the phrase, he peppers the zone. He just throws strikes all the time. They're fun. I like this Mariners team.
The only bummer for the Mariners, Julio Rodriguez hasn't gotten going.
No.
My preseason MVP pick. He was much better in the second half of last year than he was in the first half. Maybe that'll be the case for him again, but now he hasn't really gotten it going at all. He is striking out a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is with him that's just not clicking at the moment. He's OPSing 633.
He has fewer home runs than somebody named Josh Rojas, who is apparently their best hitter.
Yeah, see, that's sort of where I think this team runs into some issues. Like Cal Raleigh, the guy everybody loves, he hits singles and he hits home runs, and they call him Big Dumper. Like that, he's a very popular player for Seattle.
Do not
fans.
care for that nickname, by the way.
He bats 215, and his slug is 471. That's what he does. He will hit a single, or he will hit a home run, or he will probably strike out. That's kind of all he does. Ty France is okay. Like, he's a solidly okay Major League Baseball player. My guy J.P. Crawford is hurt right now. He threw me a baseball one time, so I will be indebted to him forever. Like, they just don't have a whole lot that makes you go, wow. Mitch Haniger, former and current Mariner, has not really gotten going. Mitch Garver is betting under 180. Like, it's just not all that impressive. So I have faith the Royals are going to get at least one in this series, and hopefully they do, and they can finish off what would be a winning homestand. We got to get to one final commercial break, finishing up the show here from Prairie Band Sportsbook. If you're a straggler, we got just a couple minutes left in the show. You got a chance to win a pair of tickets to Royals A's coming up on Friday. We need your name. We need your email address. We will enter you for a chance to win tickets to Friday's game. That's coming up here in just a moment as we wrap up 580 Sports Talk right after this with the final word. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon. Want to give a big thanks, big shout out to our friends here at Prairie Band Sportsbook for having us out. It is always a blast up here. I've had a great time. Don't forget about the Putt Your Way promotion going on during the PGA Championship this weekend. 2 free rounds of golf on the line every single day at Firekeeper Golf Course. All right, guys, quick final word. Dan, you're up first.
Final word for me, it's been a great first quarter for the Kansas City Royals. They are off to an outstanding start. They're playing good ball. I don't think they're going to play at a 96 win pace the rest of the year, but even as it comes back down to earth, they banked enough wins to make it so that I think this can be a really fun summer in KC.
Spencer?
The Royals are giving me grade 5s lately. They're giving me like 2012 Nats 5s.
The highest honor you can get from Spencer Dupuis, being compared to the mid-2010s Washington Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't lost a lot to begin the season, so you can't compare them to the 2019 team.
Final word for me today, and we've talked a lot of Royals baseball. Let's just stick with it. I still don't think I'm in agreement with you, Dan, that this team is going to win 96. I don't think they're going to run away with the division by any means. But when you've got pitching that is reliable and consistent, when you've got a couple of real potential or active superstars who are at your position, at the positions in your lineup, however you want to phrase that, as well as a bullpen that at least gives you some good innings once in a while, you can make some noise. I'm improving what I thought on my preseason expectations by a full 6 wins. I'll give them 81. I don't think I can go higher than that, but if you want to say they go from last year 56 all the way to 81, that's a pretty damn big improvement if you're the Kansas City Royals. We're back in studio tomorrow from 2 until 6. Until then, for intern Trenton Craxter, for Spencer Dupuis, for Dan Lucero, I am Brendan Dworzinski. Thanks again to Prairie Band Sportsbook. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow again for 580 Sports Talk.